It's off exit 10, presented by Capital District Sport and Fitness.
Don't worry, I'll be all right.
Oh, good.
I've lost it before. So,
what sports did you watch a lot growing up?
Out of every sport, I probably would say basketball the most. Out of all the other ones, but basketball, football, soccer. I don't know why I watched a lot of soccer, to be honest. I mean, I played it, but a lot of the games, like I'm watching Argentina. Like Argentina was my favorite team, and I have no idea why. Like I don't know if it was the colors.
I was gonna say because it wasn't like Messi was like huge when we were younger.
No, there's no one I could even tell you who played on the team. And like I've had the sports game.
Yep.
So I'm playing FIFA against my brother, and I'm picking Argentina. He's picking Brazil. I couldn't even tell you why to this day. But like that game was lit to me.
Were you a North Carolina fan or anything for like UNC basketball or anything like that?
No, I can't say a college fan.
I was like the baby blue and the white, maybe. You know.
No.
What were you playing on? What system?
Oh, Jesus, PlayStation 1. I think that was for PlayStation 1. But we had all the game systems. From Dreamcast to Nintendo 64 to Xbox.
Oh,
Jordan, the Dreamcast. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we never had any.
What's the deal
Sega.
with the Dreamcast? How that was like a one-time thing? A Sega?
No, Sega was in the 90s. They were like neck and neck with Nintendo. That was
Yeah.
the big
And
fight. And then they just
Dreamcast
got-
kind of. I think
Dreamcast may have been the one that tanked them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
But speaking of Nintendo 64, complete sidetracked. I just saw they're coming out with a console. I forget what it's called, but you can take Nintendo 64 cartridges, you put it in this, and you can play Nintendo 64 in 4K.
Oof.
Like,
No.
I swear to God, I just saw this the other day, and I was like, holy shit, I might be playing some Mario Kart and James Bond in 4K. Like,
James Bond.
Yeah.
You took it back with that.
The
one.
GoldenEye?
GoldenEye was fire.
Like, I saw that, and I was like, reading it, and I'm pretty sure it's like you could take the original N64, and then it does something in the system, and and puts it on the screen in 4K.
It's like what you were saying before we got on air. It's like I just couldn't justify my time spent, let's say, watching sports.
Yeah.
And I think about it for video games. And then I think, like, what am I trying to do? I'm like, I just want to find some, like, inner peace in myself every
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
And, like, playing GoldenEye or, like, a video game would probably give me some of that inner peace.
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't I give myself some time?
Well, so funny enough though. So I was recently had a daughter.
How old?
She just turned 1 the other day.
Okay,
Congratulations.
Our daughter is almost 2, so congratulations.
Thank you. Likewise.
First one.
First one.
It's the best, right?
I'm learning.
We're all learning.
I'm learning.
I think every parent's learning from the get-go.
Yeah,
Like, you think your parents had it figured out? They did not.
Nah.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely questioning now. My parents like, did you really know? I don't think you knew. But yeah, there was points during my wife's pregnancy where like I'm gassed. Like my brain is fogged up. I was like, I need to do something for me. I need to, and Call of Duty is my game. So I get on Call of Duty and I'm playing. And next thing you know, I'm like, oh, I'm getting back into it. Well, first I realized I sucked, right? Because I haven't played for years. So like I'm looking like they're calling me the newbie. And I'm like, oh, this one hurts. Like I really used to be about that life. And as I'm playing, I'm finally getting into the groove. And then now I'm spending a little bit too much time on the game. And it took one of the coaches at the gym. I was telling him a story about when I was playing. And he goes, so your time to relax is to play a violent game that causes you anxiety? And I go, I don't need that positivity right now. Like I was enjoying myself. But then I was able to be like regulate and go, all right, well, I'm spending way too much time on a game. Let me focus on some other
Find some
aspects.
balance in that. I mean, the one thing with like video games is like obviously you can get addicted to them, but there is a sense of like strategy. There's a sense of like problem solving and like.
And you can get addicted to DraftKings too.
You
so
can definitely get
don't do
addicted
it.
to DraftKings. There is a 1-800.
I think you sold me.
There's a 1-800 number if you do get addicted to it.
Yeah, I think you sold me. I don't think I'm gonna hop into that. I don't need to pick up another vice.
Yeah.
No, Jay, you strike a good balance, right? Productivity, some gaming.
Yeah. I don't.
You know what? I appreciate the transparency.
He goes, yeah, no.
No, I say that because I gamed hard for a long time.
Okay.
And it was too much.
Mm.
And then as a way to stop, I stopped.
Oh,
And I
Okay.
cannot find a good way to dip my toes back in and then
Because
hop out
without it, yeah.
without getting deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
it's-
I just haven't found a way to get my toes back because I don't play video games as much. I used to play like sports games all the time, and I've like
Okay.
wanted to kind of get back into it a little bit. But it's like every time I do it, I'm like, I don't want to have to think that much right now. Like I just don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to use
That's
my brain
a thing.
right now.
Decision fatigue.
Yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
like I just wanna-
decision fatigue.
I get decision fatigue trying to choose a show on
Does
Netflix.
your-
me too.
Yeah, like I'm
That's
not
real.
doing this anymore. I've been watching for a show to watch for 10
Well,
minutes.
decision fatigue. My wife and I both like to be in control, but it's like we need to strike a balance of control and decision making. And decision fatigue really gets to me because we'll talk about it. But running a business, I feel like we have colleagues and co-owners.
Yep.
But it's like we're constantly filtering through information
Absolutely.
and making decisions. So sometimes we
Absolutely.
go home. Sam's like, "Hey, where are we gonna go to eat? What are we gonna put on?
I don't
What
care.
do you want to do here?"
What do you want to have?
And she's
I'll
like,
eat what you have.
"She's like, make a fucking choice."
Oh man, I'm triggered. This sounds like a conversation we had the other day.
But it's real, man.
No, absolutely. Especially as an entrepreneur, as a strength coach, and you're balancing multiple programs as well too, right? So like you're dealing with behaviors, personalities, performance measures, and then to then have to go home and then you're dealing with baby, wife, yourself.
Yourself?
You're juggling so many different hats, and sometimes you're like, oh, I forgot that was a hat I needed to wear, and then you jump back into that thing, you lose something else.
Yeah, I think having
tough.
having our daughter has really helped me with that. I guess either perspective, be able to step away from things here more, or just realize like we are all capable of so much more.
Yeah.
Just as a human.
Yeah.
Like you may at some point in your life when you're 20, 21 think, dude, life's so hard. I have so much on my plate.
You barely cracked the surface.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and then some shit happens to you. You get a
Yep.
partner, you get married, you have a kid, you open a business,
Yep.
you have employees. You go, whoa, like, I wish I was 21 again with what I thought was hard.
Yep.
But you realize, like, we are all just capable of so much more. You just got to put yourself in it, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's the hard part because like when it gets tough, like it sucks progressing. It sucks getting better and developing. It gets more and more difficult, and sometimes it feels like you can't catch a break or can't catch a win. But then when you really sit back and you look at where you started versus where you currently are, there's no way to look at that and be like, all right, let me chill out. Like I have been getting better. I have been developing. I have had an influence on others or been, perfecting my craft, whatever the case may be is. Just becoming a better human being sometimes, making better decisions. Then you're like, all right, I got to cut myself some slack. Like I can sit with that and I feel
Yeah.
good now.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's hard to do, to give yourself the time to like reflect. But dude, this is great already. We said before we got on air too,
Yeah.
like we just live on our own islands.
Yeah.
I say it's like that in the fitness space. I've said this before in the podcast. In this area in upstate New York, I feel like everybody's on their own island, which is why I love to have other gym owners on, because there's just not enough connecting, collaborating,
Absolutely.
making sure everyone's doing okay. We're all
Yeah.
just trying to
Some
help
kind of
help people.
cohesiveness.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we don't have enough time where we talk together, where we learn what each other is doing. How'd you even get into the fitness industry? Because there isn't like, well, I got my degree and then I went into the fitness industry. It's
Right,
not really
right.
how this field works.
Man, I think I was always into some kind of activity or sport, growing up. And so I guess a big part of it started with my own journey, with my own health and fitness journey. I was definitely a chubby kid, had the glasses, had the braces, got picked on a lot kind of a thing. And I wanted to play sports, but I wasn't always athletic or I wasn't the best at any sport. I was the guy who went out there and like worked hard. Like
That's a common theme with strength coaches.
yeah, yep,
Where like the guys that were undersized
absolutely.
really worked hard, did not have even close to like the skill set to excel.
Yep.
I think that it's part of what drives us
and
to
the
this
funny
field.
part, by the time I excelled, I was no longer playing the sport as serious. So like at 33 now, I'm more athletic than I've ever been. Like learning the science behind training and then learning all of the either recovery methods or just all of the protocols and training programs, whatever the case may be, is just being more intentional and structural about a program, yeah, I would absolutely smoke the 18-year-old version of me. Like any day, anytime, on 3 hours of sleep, especially after having a daughter too. I can go 2 days straight. He wouldn't match up. But yeah, a big part of it, man, is had a hard time growing up. There was a lot of struggle, and as I got older, I always wanted to be stronger, wanted to be more fit. Like I was always searching for that, and it pulled me out of some dark spaces. And I tell people, like, the cool part about fitness is 220. Like, it's the hardest look in the mirror that you could ever have, right? So 225 pounds is 225 pounds. Doesn't matter if I had a good day, a bad day, had sleep, no sleep. If I had caffeine, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if my friend's not talking to me that day. I'm at it with my mom. It's 225 pounds, and it's how I decide to handle it. You know what I mean? So throughout all the difficulties I was facing, the gym was my savior. Like, as cliche as it sounds, like, that was my sense of peace. That's where my community was. That's where I learned more about nutrition, about the human body. It's where I really learned more about myself. And I've seen where I was versus where I am. And I now feel like, because I've done it, is now my due diligence to show other people that they can too. And that's from an athletic standpoint. That's from somebody who is, 600 pounds and just trying to get off the couch. Whoever is at that point where they feel like they've given it their all and there's no more to give, it's there to say, hey, you do have more and you are capable of more. You just got to take that next step. And it's funny because I used to hear that as a kid and be like, it's like, it sounds cliche, like whatever. Like there's got to be a secret. There's got to be there's a barrier to information. There's something that's holding me back. There's some excuse that I could use. And there really isn't. It really isn't. Like, if you put your blindfolds on and kind of just, it's like, all right, you know what? This is where I'm at. This is the cards I've been dealt. I can at least do one more. Right. Whether it's a rep, a set, a calling a lead, whether it's mending a relationship, whatever it is. And that's kind of where we got our phrase, our catchphrase at the facility is, if it don't move, it don't work. And that comes from a mobility standpoint, comes from a strength standpoint, and just an overall life concept. So that's kind of where a lot of that passion came from, and that drive for me to kind of move into this industry and try to affect change the best way I know how.
Yeah, it's like the gym can be, we want people to have good habits, and the gym can be this. There's a book called The Power of Habit, and they talk about keystone habits, right? The gym can be this keystone habit, meaning it's a habit that then can knock down other dominoes and create better habits. And like, you just listen, you name it, nutrition, sleep, your relationships, your work. It really can be this one that can kick over others. I think it came up because somebody was asking me about like the saunas, cold plunge, all that. I go, yeah, like good and have merit to recovery. I go, but those things are never going to be a keystone habit. Yeah.
Man, it's so hard to get that across. Not only to, like, I think the hardest part is for new coaches and stuff who get into the game. It's hard to get that across to them. It's also hard to get that across to certain clients who they scroll through social media all day, and they look for that. This is it. This is the one thing I'm not doing that's gonna it's gonna get me to where I need to be. And it's like, probably not. You're not doing the basics. You're not doing any kind of foundational work. To think that, yeah, it might work for a bit, but like it's like a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. Like it's just you're leaking either way. It's just not gonna work.
It's like
there's no shortcuts. That's
no.
really what
Well,
it
it's like
is.
if you're building a house, like I want a strong foundation, then I'll put on like some fancy gutters at the end. But it's like I don't want this shit foundation and these nice copper gutters. It's like
a nice wind comes through, and next thing you know, you're just. I hope I got the insurance.
You're sitting on a couch in the middle of nowhere because there's no house around you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. How'd you know? Do you have a academic background at all in fitness?
In fitness, no. I got my cert. So like, in a lot of ways self-taught.
I'm always intrigued by people's paths because this field is, there's no like, well, I went to school for accounting and I got my CPA and now I'm at the firm and I'm climbing my way up the ladder. It doesn't work like that in our field.
No, it does. And truthfully, man, now that I've been in the game for almost a decade, I can't see myself doing anything else. Like, I don't know, with all the different career paths and trajectories that I was on, I can't see what other field would satisfy me the same way or be as fulfilling. So, from a young age growing up, I wanted to be an engineer. So initially I went to school to be engineer, and I didn't realize you had to work with teams as much. So like when you got to work with the electrical teams, you got to work with the architects, you got to work with, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I like that so much, because there was a point where I almost failed a few courses, man, because a teammate didn't follow through. And it wasn't like we didn't check and we didn't double check. It was like our project was in the back of a pickup truck, even secured, and it fell out. And the professor was like, well, you got an hour. I'll take whatever you can come up with. And we're like, are you serious? Like, I'm getting a D in the class because something that was outside of my control. And so I was never good with teams that way. If I could do something myself, I can blame myself. Like, I don't want to put, if someone's responsible for me, I got to show up. Like, I got to be there. I hate letting people down. I'm a really great role player in that sense. But yeah, when I found that, I was like, I don't want to do engineering, and I have problems with authority sometimes. So I wanted to.
I'm relating to you. I have a hard time with authority, and two things would stress me out in school: having to talk in class and group projects. Because one, I had to talk with other people.
Yeah.
Refer back to the first point, but
refer back to rule number 1.
but also that I think it was a control thing, right? I wasn't in full control of the situation.
Yeah. It just wasn't for me in that sense. And then, because I knew that I would have to own my own business at some point.
Did you grow up around any entrepreneurs?
So I can't say, my pops, growing up, he tried to start his own business. He was a carpenter in trade. But he just failed miserably. He just didn't know. And it wasn't I think it was a failure of circumstance. Like, it was late in the game. You got 3 kids. He used to work for like General Electric. And one of the jackhammers fell on his foot and had to get on disability. He just couldn't work. He used to build like the bridges and stuff like that, but he always had a very strong work ethic. So he would pick up odd and end jobs fixing stuff. He grew up on a farm down south, and he was really good with tools and stuff. So at one point he was like, you know what, let me go legit with this. And he tried to start his own company, and the planning wasn't there. He only had a high school education. So the planning wasn't there. There was no program, no structure. There was no finances. There was no, tracking method. There was nothing like, how do I source paint and a job and time, quantity? It just wasn't there. So he just kind of went back to what he did best, with just kind of not creating a business as such, but like just working out and in jobs. And I get a lot of that from him, from that. But I knew I couldn't work that way. And then, but stuff like that always intrigued me, which is how I loved how the human mind works and the human brain works. So after realizing business wasn't really it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try psychology out. Like, I love being able to see why people do what they do versus how people do what they do. It's like, okay, there's got to be something behind that. And then it's like, or you do it this time and don't do it that time. And that to me is extremely fascinating. And I feel like with training, I get to do all of that.
Yeah.
So I get to have, from the biomechanics or the science, the kinesiology, all of those aspects and frameworks. And then it's from a business standpoint, I get to track metrics and numbers. And those are cool puzzles for me to figure out, like, oh, we're bleeding here, what we need to work on, whether it's marketing, whatever the case may be is. And then on top of that, the behavioral aspect. So I got a client in front of me, they're all hope is lost. They feel like they've done everything. They feel like they've tried everything. Who am I to tell them that they haven't? Right? So then now I get to visit all of the ins and outs and the in-betweens of why you're doing, what your journey, your purpose is, why are you training with us today? And then it's like, now, to be honest, it's starting to transform because after I've had my daughter, it's really preaching to a lot of people, like, we really only have but so much time on this earth.
That, you know what I think
Who is
too-
it that you want to be? How do you want to influence others?
Yeah.
Like, you got to stand on it because I got to teach her that now.
Dude, yeah, I think about the people I want to surround myself with. I'm way more picky now because I go, would I want her around them?
Yes.
And
Yep.
I also look at everybody as, this could be weird, as once they were a little baby and somebody thought of them how I think of my daughter, right? We see adults who have a lot of trauma and are scarred.
Yeah.
And you go, at some point, you were this little thing. It gives me more empathy.
Man, I tell you right now, and Mom, if you're watching, I apologize. I love you. But sometimes the what I'm learning, the hardest thing to do is integrating like grandparents into parenting,
Explain.
because there's a lot of new methods, a lot of new science, there's a lot of new information. Also, I'm still a first time parent. Now, granted, my mom, she got her belt. You one of three. You raised three of us. My hat comes off to you. I'm sorry for all of the stuff that I did, right? And I always love and respect her for it. But then there's points where like, hey, Ma, you let me do that? That's weird. Oh, it'll be just fine. It won't be fine because I know who I am now. Like, you missed some marks. I had to go to therapy a couple times. You missed the mark on a few points. I'm not saying you didn't do your thing. You know what I mean? But
Hey, that's a good thing about our generation, though. We recognize therapy's been very impactful in my life. I tell people in here, like, I could not talk to you every week if I didn't have therapy.
and all the things that I've been through, man, I've been through more than my fair share. Therapy has helped tremendously, and in general, the ability to kind of look within and like sit with yourself, spend some time and like question your own methods and your own beliefs, and being open to others as well. Because sometimes, man, I look back and I go, you know what, that was my fault. I absolutely did do that to myself, and take accountability and ownership for that. Or there's points where I look back and it was like, you know what, that wasn't my fault, and I can't shame myself for it either, because I either A, wasn't old enough, or B, I didn't have enough information, and I was acting within what I did know at the time. And I think that's the beauty of coaching too, right? So like the progression of, like, I keep all my notebooks from every program I've ever written since I first started training a client. And I look back at some of those programs now and I go, how did they stay with me so long? Like, this is trash. This is absolute garbage. And I was getting people results with it too, though. So
I guess,
like,
but that makes you ask other important questions too. Why?
And a lot of times I'm like, oh, well, I was fresh out of a certification. It was like, nope, NASM says you need boom, 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 and boom. Had zero experience, but thought I knew better, right? Because around some of my peers, it's like I was top dog in the gym or I was working out. But then you start surrounding yourself with people who are stronger than you and know more than you, and you're like, oh, wait, let me humble myself.
Yeah, that's important.
Let me humble myself real quick. And you get that experience as well, and then you start realizing, like, oh, there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
There's so much perspectives to look through, or lenses to look through. Like,
I was living in Boston. I came off of an internship at a good facility in West Springfield to a Cressy sports performance internship.
Jeez, okay.
So went to massage therapy school. Now, I had never made a single dollar in the field. I had done those three things.
Got you.
I had got my first job in a commercial gym, little asshole with an ego, thought I was above it.
Yeah.
And just like, that's a lot of regrets when I was there. But then I got my first real full-time job at a facility. We were employees, but kind of acted like 1099s, building our own client rosters. Here I was with all these internships, all this education, kind of struggling to build a clientele.
Yeah.
This kid, Mike Campanella, who owns a couple really good gyms in Boston now, no science background, poli-sci background, but could demand a session, was engaging, really cared, was organized, has a great personality.
Right.
And in that first year I was at that job, when I was kind of struggling to build something, I watched this guy just kill, make money.
Yep.
I was like, I'm smarter than him, but
Right.
he's killing. And we became close friends. And that's what flipped me a switch to realize, like, oh,
You gotta be able to talk.
people stay with you. You can't hurt them. You need to know enough to not hurt them, but people stay with you for
who
you.
you are. Yeah, and oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, when I first started training too, like I was in a commercial gym, and there were times where I was like, do I even know what the fuck I'm doing right now? But I had people sticking with me because I just knew how to talk to them. I knew how to
Yeah.
relate to them. I knew how to empathize with them. I knew how to, like, okay, you're feeling something today. Let me figure out how I can get you through this session.
Yep.
Feel like you got a good workout. And then, like, same thing. I've looked back at old programs and I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
one, that's a lot for somebody to do. Or two, like, did they even get a workout that day? Like,
Right.
So it's interesting when you look back at that. But, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, I never felt at that time I didn't feel like the smartest like trainer in the room. I actually felt probably like the dumbest trainer in the room.
Right.
But I just was like, just got to be able to talk to people. I just got to be able to talk to them, and then learn the process of everything else as I go. And like that's just and taking information from more experienced trainers. Like you took information from him as far as being able to talk to people. I've taken a lot of information from head trainers that I worked with, and then was able to use that to help me with that. And my retail background helped with like being able to talk to people.
Retail
you know?
helps like tremendously. Being able to just also build a relationship with somebody quickly and be able to kind of discern what they're coming in for and kind of pinpoint those things. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was in like I was at Reebok selling like sneakers and shit, and then I was at GNC, and that was what I feel like took my training and being able to talk to somebody to a whole different level, because I would spend sometimes 30 minutes with somebody in the store.
Okay.
And like because I didn't want to
just chill.
Just like talk to them about what they want to achieve, what their goals are, because I don't want to sit there and sell you something just because like I make money off of it. I want to sell you something so that you keep coming back, so that way I keep making money every single month and whatnot. I want to sell you, and not because that was the only reason, but because I also want you to feel like you're seeing results from what you want. Like if you want to lose weight, if you want to get stronger, like whatever it is, like you want a protein that tastes good.
Yep.
Like I want you to be able to be like, oh, this guy's gonna recommend me something, and not like oversell.
This is what's so interesting with this field, because in my experience working in different places in here, I rather take an employee with a bit of a like very diverse background in terms of different fields to like take all these skill sets and pop it into here.
Yep.
It's because you were engineering, psychology.
Yeah.
You did retail stuff too.
I did. Man, I've been all over the place. I've done retail. I used to work at a restaurant, busting tables. Man, I used to work with youth, like youth camp, doing counseling in the summers. Part of the retail I was doing was selling shoes, so that was a little bit different. But like women's shoes, like not even Reeboks. I was in college and I'm at a store called Baker's, and I'm selling shoes and accessories. And then there was another job I worked at, Talbot's in Stuyvesant Plaza. They got it's a women's store, but I was in the back doing shipping and handling kind of stuff. Every once in a while, if they were down-staffed, I was able to be adaptable enough where I could also get on the sales floor because of my previous history, and I was good with talking. I used to act, so I did a couple years doing theater.
No way.
We were an improv group, so that's the only reason why I'm good with speaking. I'm comfortable with speaking, rather.
You did improv. It was all improv?
We did. We would build our own monologues. We would
Where was this?
write old scripts. So the group was called Too Deep Entertainment in Albany. They were a traveling improv group. So we've done shows at the Palace, Steamer 10, which is a small theater like off of Madison Ave by like St. Rose.
R.I.P.
We would travel.
Rest in peace.
That's big. We would travel to Syracuse, the universities, and put on different shows.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a good time, man. I definitely miss those guys. So if they're watching, I appreciate you.
Did you have like inspirations in terms of people you looked up to in improv or comedy or acting?
I mean, I always loved a good movie. Still to this day, like I used to go to movie theater by myself and just kind of like eat the popcorn, and I could just zone out to see the different kind of cinematography and everything. I can't say that I'm always a sucker for an action star.
Okay.
You know, and then the more I've noticed that they had like a legit background, the more I'm into them. But that kind of stemmed from like watching like martial arts films growing up, and being in that. So like those action films where they get really hand-to-hand combat, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see this all day.
Yeah.
The supplement industry is like the Wild West. The lack of regulations mean the supplements you purchase may not even contain the ingredients listed on the label, which is why I get my daily vitamins and supplements from Thorne. Thorne vitamins and supplements are made without compromise. Quality ingredients ensure your body optimally absorbs and digests your daily supplements, while in-house and third-party testing ensure you're getting exactly what you paid for. Thorne offers a variety of health tests reviewed by board-certified physicians that evaluate your lifestyle, gut health, sleep, stress hormones, and metabolic markers to determine which vitamins and supplements may be most effective in helping you feel and perform better throughout the day. For college and professional athletes, Thorne has NSF-certified supplements that make sure you won't get pop positive on a drug test. Whether you're an athlete, professional, parent, grandparent, or weekend warrior, Thorne's selection of high-quality supplements can help improve your quality of life. Switch to Thorne's high-quality and extensively tested supplements today at thorne.com/u/CDSF. That's thorne.com/u/CDSF. This episode of Off Exit 10 is brought to you by Bombas. Bombas makes my favorite pair of socks, hands down, alongside the most comfortable and durable underwear, t-shirts, and other everyday clothing staples. Their wide variety of sock lengths, colors, and patterns have you covered, whether you're working out, going out, or lounging at home. I love their merino wool blend athletic ankle sock for long days of coaching at CDSF and getting in workouts myself. And if I'm at home doing work around the house, you better believe I'm wearing my Bombas Sunday slippers with their comfy memory foam midsole. And when you buy from Bombas, you're also buying for those in need. For every item you purchase, Bombas donates one item to people in overnight shelters, transitional living facilities, rehab centers, Title I schools, and medical service professionals. Take my word, if you want to upgrade your sock game to one that's more comfortable, durable, fashionable, and charitable, head over to the Bombas link in this episode's description to browse their full collection of everyday wear, and don't forget to use code CDSF20 for 20% off your first order. So when did you open Kinetic Training?
So we officially opened in 2017. The business itself is composed of myself, my two business partners, Jeffrey Crisanda, he's a doctor in physical therapy, and Christopher Mann, who has his master's in applied nutrition.
Cool.
So we but we kind of got to know each other a lot through kind of a commercial space. And then we really got together and was like, hey, we're noticing some major, disservices that are happening when it comes to teaching people or educating people on fitness. And we think we can do a better job.
In terms of the structure that you were able to provide things in the commercial space?
Yeah, honestly, all of it. Because I had an incident, man, where I had a client and she was missing. She was like a 2-time-a-week person. She's missing sessions, and every month we would do kind of a review board, and they put the metrics on the board, and hey, these are the numbers that you gotta hit, which always felt a little awkward. Mm-hmm. But there's a couple clients that haven't been in, so they were like, reach out to your clients. And I was like, well, I have been. She's not answering. And then when she did, come to find out that her husband had passed, and he just was in a funk. And I related that back to my boss, like, hey, right now is not a good time. She's going through a lot. Her husband passed. And he goes, well, you got to find a way to get her back in here, man.
Oh, God.
And I was like, no, she needs to take whatever time that she needs. Because, like, imagine if you had to deal with that, right? Yeah. So, like, I'm not about to call her up and harass her to get in here and he was telling me to kind of spin it so that this is a form to help out depression. And although it is, it's like, that's not my place. That's out my scope of practice, bro. Like, that's not my job to do. And to sit and then after that, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then, he ended up finding another space to work at or whatever have you. And they didn't have a boss for us. So it was us kind of just managing ourselves. And next thing you know, they're having meetings and they're saying, hey, listen, guys, out of all the branches, you're the smallest department, but you're bringing in the most money. How are you doing this? We're like, we just care about the clients, and we're just kind of following up with them and taking care of them, making sure that they're pushing themselves. And program is sound.
And the training style gym was born.
Yeah, and that's when we were like, hey, we can kind of do this ourselves. And I remember the very first day, because at that time, Jeff had a mentor of such who he had his own business, and
He's the physical therapist?
yeah, he's the physical therapist. Yeah, one of his mentors had a space where he was looking to partner with some people and maybe get some people to contract out to him. We were like, hey, what if this is the route we took? And we did. We took the leap, and we kind of were working under that, and then some weird stuff started happening, and it was like underneath a bank, so like all office buildings, so like all the office workers could utilize the space. And then they started saying like equipment was missing and things, and they thought it was us. And I'm like, we need the equipment to do the work. Why would I take it? That makes no sense. Like, why would I take it home and then why would I take it home and leave it? Like, don't you think I would take it home and then bring it back?
You're like, I got Call of Duty to play. What do you think I'm taking this home for?
Do. Right. Like, I'm not taking an ab wheel roller to go knock out some extra sets. These suck anyways. Like, I'm not. But then we were like, yeah, we just need to find our own space. We need to find it fast. And we found a little, I call it a hole in the wall, but it really wasn't a hole in the wall. It was just a very small facility, 400 square feet.
Whoa, you started 400 square feet, dude.
On a busy street right near the state buildings downtown. It was 3 of us. The ceiling was so small, like literally I could raise my hand and touch the top of the ceiling. And I'm short, man. Like people ask me like, oh, how tall are you? I'm like, I'm not. I'm just short. Like it's not it. Yeah. But yeah, we made it work, man. We built a framework within the facility. It's all wooden. And we would take attachments and hook them to it, get bands and stuff like that, get a couple of barbells, and we made it work. And eventually we quickly within that first year we really just ran out of space, and we was like, we need to find something else.
What year was that?
That was like 2018.
Oh wow. Yeah, let's hear your progression, because
so 2017 we officially opened. 2018 is kind of like where it was too small, and then we found a bigger facility, the one up by Colony.
What'd you have in that first one? Just like a year lease or month to month? You could get out whenever?
It was pretty much a year and then a month to month, if I recall.
Yeah.
To be honest,
it's
been a bit. But I'm pretty sure it was a year, or if it was month to month. And then.
But regardless, you just got out of that.
Yeah,
next month.
we were able to get out of there smoothly, so that wasn't a big deal. It was a bit of a hiccup moving into the next space. There's always something, man.
There's always something. That's something I've learned. Coming back to my need to be in control, I've just learned, yes, it's in your personal life, in the gym. It's like there's just going to be something, and accept there's going to be something.
You have to roll with. When they say roll with the punches, like they mean roll with the punches, because they're coming. Right. The punches are coming. You just have to learn to deal with them.
How old were you when you feel like you learn like roll with the punches? Like really? Like I gotta just roll with the punches. Unfortunately,
it happened a lot earlier than I would have liked. Yeah. I had to grow up a lot faster than I would have liked. Yeah. So honestly, probably about 16, 17 is really where it was like, you know what? I can't control this thing. I can really only control how I adjust to it and how I adapt to it. Because I think sometimes I know it's easier to quit, man. It's so much easier to be like, I'm over it. This is just hard. Life is hard. And it's kind of supposed to be. Like if you truly want to amount to something and then like you really want something out of it, I think it has to be, because it's not comfortable to continuously look yourself in the mirror and be like, all right, I'm not doing my best here. Like, all right, I got to one up myself here. Like what I'm doing is good. Don't get me wrong. And what I'm doing is probably better than most. But like, is that really up to the standard that I want for myself? Like, is this truly like when I really do lay down and take my last breath, can I really look back and be like, yeah, you did it, bro. You rocked that. You killed that. No, I'm going to be like, that was that one time. What if? And that does not sit well with me. Yeah. And again, especially after having my daughter, like I can't.
Yeah, that's big.
I can't look at her and be like, yeah, daddy did his best. It's like, no, daddy did just enough to get by. I can't say that and then have to tell her in the same breath, like, you go out there and do the best you can do.
Right.
Because the kids, man, they learn through watching us, and my time in teaching. That was one of the other ones I forgot. So I did, which is crazy because I spent so much time. That's probably like the longest job that I had.
Teaching?
Was teaching. So I taught first started teaching. Well, they hired me for phys ed.
Where?
It was Albany Community Charter School.
Okay.
Located in Albany. They had 2 facilities. It was K through 5 and then 6 through 8. I initially went in to teach phys ed, and with charter schools, you don't need the same kind of credentials.
Right. There's not state
some leeways.
curriculum.
Yeah. So they make up for it with the professional development, right?
Right.
Well, they make up for it with the professional development.
The
But
so-called professional development.
Yeah, exactly. So they looked at my background with personal training and such, and they were like, "Oh, could you teach phys ed?" And at that time, man, I'm juggling multiple jobs, and I looked at what they were offering and been like, "Yeah, I could teach it. I teach middle school kids sports. Yeah, easy. I played everything that that's out there, at least to some degree, at least enough to teach a middle schooler, right?" And then I'd done camp counseling, so I'm like, I'm good with kids. Yeah, they don't tell you all the other stuff that comes with that, right? So like, I definitely take shout out to all the teachers and educators out there.
Shout out.
Especially now. Please understand that you're seen, you're loved, you're cared for. You're doing a phenomenal job. Because I firmly believe, especially through 6 through 8, these kids should go fend for themselves in an island and then come back because it's different. It's just different through that age group.
Yeah.
I want to steal that. All the 7th and 8th grade boys in here, let's send them to an island and let them fend for themselves.
Let the strong survive
The
there.
girls can
because
stay. The boys got to go.
They're different. It's a different breed. They have, it's so weird because they have no filter. So they will tell you whatever it is that comes to their mind. They have no life experience either. So like their ability to compare anything is just automatically off. Mr. Williams, how old are you? You look like 40. I'm like, at the time, I'm like, yo, I'm 22. Like, what are you talking about? Like, or like just the randomness that just happens. There was always a story, man. And but they hired me for phys ed, and then they also said, well, and charter is different. So all of their classes were in the afternoon. So I could literally work as a teacher part-time and just teach the phys ed. And they were like, oh, but if you want full-time, we would just have to place you in a classroom because they have a co-teaching model, right? So what happens is it's 2 teachers to every room, and both those teachers have the same responsibility, right? So I go, oh, full-time? I ain't never had full-time before. With benefits? Let's go. Like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I could be a teacher. Man, I grabbed every book that I could think of for teaching because I know that I'm not going to sit in front of these kids and have them, like, outsmart me. Like, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to lose that battle, right? So I'm trying to teach myself how to become an educator. And that was rewarding, but it was tough because and the same thing with the fitness industry. It's tough when you don't always have the same credentials. Like there's always going to be a barrier, right? So like when I was teaching and I found out that because I didn't have my credentials, my appropriate credentials, I was making $30,000-$40,000 less than my peers. So it's very difficult. Like so I'm watching them having like house parties and like or housewarmings and stuff, and I'm like, what y'all getting paid?
Do you think that's part of like
how in the world are y'all affording the house?
Do you think that's part of like the charter private school thing where they want to hire teachers that are like that so they have less on payroll? Or no, am I wrong? Am I just being pessimistic or being...
I mean, I'm sure some schools it's a financial thing, and some schools it's a lack of candidates that they just don't have to come there, whether it's because it's an inner city school or a school in the middle of like East Bumfuck that's got like 7 people in the entire town.
Yeah.
You know, like,
good point.
I think it's a combination of there's probably schools out there that do it because it does save them money financially, and then I would say more schools it's probably just like a lack of just candidates out there, especially now.
I'd add a different lens. It's an opportunity also for educators who do not get the credentials but have a passion for teaching.
It's a good point. Well, this
and
goes
have
back
a passion for kids because that's where I learned that as well. So like, again, my own ego and my own character like wouldn't allow me to sit in front of kids without knowing what I'm doing. So I then took that initiative, but I saw some phenomenal teachers come through there, phenomenal educators come through there to teach students and build relationship with students and have an actual impact on the community and didn't have a 4-year degree or didn't have so that was...
It's a good point. And there's a lot of jobs out there that are like that. Listen, some need degrees, but we talk about our industry. We said that earlier on. right? A lot of the rock stars I know, this kid Mike from Boston,
Yep.
what you're doing, a lot of people. This guy Greg Robbins, who was one of my mentors, had an English degree,
Yeah.
but they sound like you. I want to learn. I want to do my best. I love helping people.
Because not for nothing, though, there's a reason why they're there, though. There's a reason why certain standards are in place, because I've also watched some educators come through and I was like, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
There's no way you should be in front of kids at all. Or like, there's no way you should be. And like, I do my best not to judge people, but sometimes I judge.
But I would think
I do my best. But
I
like,
would think there's college degree people where it's like you're
Oh, yeah.
not doing a good
so,
job.
yeah,
Same
so
shit.
We had a and you know, I'm definitely a firm believer in people believing what they need to believe. But there's certain information that's just right, and there's certain information that's wrong. And who's to say that information changes later? But like for right now, what we know, that's not it. So
2
like,
plus 2 is 4.
we had a period. So we had like a history teacher that was a flat earther.
How's that allowed, Jordan?
So like I'm literally I walk into the lesson.
These kids, no way.
I had a student who left their folder in my classroom. And because of the 2-teacher model, I can step out. So like I grabbed the folder. It's a small school. So like history class is no further than like right where your office is, right? So I go in to deliver the paperwork. You don't want the kid to fail or whatever. Give him his folder. And I walked in on a lesson and I looked at the board and I go, no, that's not right. How in the world? No, that's not, it can't be it. And in the format that we had is we had grade level teams, and then we have like, so the framework was vertical or horizontal. So you have grade level teams, and then, which is like, 6th grade math, social studies, English, etc., and then upward. So it's like 6th grade math, 7th grade math, 8th grade math, just in the field. And I go, we need to have a meeting. We all need to have a meeting about this and make sure like is this what we're doing now?
This isn't
isn't
going
it.
across the ladder. This ain't going up the ladder. We need to stop this now.
That's it today. And it was so interesting because eventually, admin didn't know that. They didn't know that was what that person believed. And again, in the charter, there was some autonomy to some of the standards, right? So some of the standards, some of the framework.
Which some autonomy is nice because there's probably some public school standards or guidelines that make things hard for teachers to teach appropriately, but not to flat earth teach.
Exactly. So like I was like, hey, like they shouldn't be here. So like we need to do something about that because that's not it. Or like one of the ELA teachers would not once, not twice, like it was common that she'd misspell a word on the board, and I go, you got. That can't be it. That can't be it. Like you can't do that. And like
your job is to not do that. Actually,
literally, and
do the
then,
opposite
like,
of that.
And then like to confidently be wrong or to try to justify why I was wrong and just couldn't be like, oh, I messed up, right? Or like I'll do better. It was always like, no, I tried to do it this way, or like I was trying to be creative. Like I heard like I was using it to be creative. That's not a time. These kids are
This
already
is grammar.
3, 4, 5 grade levels below where they need to be. I don't think we have time to play around like that. That's different. Like for some of these kids, it legit. And we had another educator who said it like sometimes it's life or death. And it's I would joke about it now, but like in the reality of when I was teaching, for a lot of those kids, it is. And for the time that I was teaching to now, I've watched some of these kids, unfortunately. Being in Albany, it's small, right? So some of these kids who fell through those cracks, I've seen where they're at on the other side, and it's tough. And that's why there was a point where I was like, I shouldn't be here, because it's not that I couldn't do this job. I know that I'm not doing it to the ability that I think that all these students can benefit from. Like there was points where like I'm getting so frustrated with teaching that like I definitely came in and was like, I didn't lesson plan today. These kids don't know this anyways. Like, what am I, you got the 4 kids, like, I'll never forget, man. I feel bad about it now, but again, owning up to it, like, there's different structures that you can create within a classroom, and we would do it sometimes based on level. Because it wasn't like when we went to school, we have honors and high honors and things like that. Like, our school didn't separate that way. So it was like, oh, I'm looking at these kids as their current standing in the classroom are. These are definitely my level 4s. Like these are all kids that are going to do great on this test. I'm going to put them in a group. And then I'm going to now challenge them a little. So it's like scaffolding in a sense where, and centered learning. So like all our fours are going to probably teach. Actually, we'd probably take the fours and have them help with some of the lower ones, right? And then we'd probably, as teachers, I'd sit with a group of threes, and the other educator would sit with like a group of twos, and they all would have different lessons that are kind of going on at the same time, right? But then sometimes I knowingly knew I did that because it's like, some of those kids, they're not going to be where they need to be, and I can't afford for my twos who could possibly be threes and pass to fall through the cracks. Like, numbers wise, we need that to stay open. And that's the tough part about a charter, because there's certain metrics that you need to meet.
From a grade standpoint.
Like X amount of this percentage of your students need to make this percentage of a grade level in order to get the funding in order for you to stay open, because the goal of a charter is to make sure that it's performing above whatever the district's averages are.
Like the public schools that are around it. Yeah, the public schools
average. Like, you need to be performing above that in order for you, because the goal is for you to be a solution to the problem of public schools, right? So that's where the difficulty was. But there was a point where I'm like, I'm not doing these kids a service. Like, I'm lacking in this area. I'm noticing that I don't have the same energy. My first day of teaching ever, I watched Freedom Writers like 3 times before I went in. I watched Coach Carter. I'm like, yo, I'm about to be a monster. Like, I'm about to be everybody's favorite teacher. And it wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. The first week I had a girl, and it was a uniform school. First week, I had a girl cartwheeling down the hall in the middle, like, she got a skirt on, she's cartwheeling down the hall, and I go, they don't teach that. That's different.
That's not in the handbook.
That's not in the handbook at all.
That was not in Coach Carter.
At all. Zero of it. I was like, listen, I can lock these chain doors. I know how to do that to keep the kids out. Like, but cartwheeling down, I was like, I don't know. I can't deal with that.
Would you like me to get some gym mats for you so you don't hurt yourself? Like, what are we doing
Coach
here?
Carter's, I haven't seen that movie in 20 years, probably.
It's so good.
Good movie.
Top 5 for me.
It's up there. It's one of my favorite like sports movies.
I feel like I want to go watch it
too. Playing basketball, feeling like the underdog. Like, I felt like I was Coach Carter's son.
Yep.
So I felt like my academics were always on point. Like, I'm taking AP classes. I'm in the International Baccalaureate Organization. Like, I feel like I'm hitting my marks. And then, like, school sports starts, and they're like, hey, we got to go to study hall. We got to make sure everybody's up to par. And I'm like, aw. Like, I was good, guys. This is the thing I excel at. What do you mean? I still gotta sit in the library and study with you guys because you didn't decide to pay attention in class. But, like, then you realize, though, when you start learning more about teams, you're like, all right, well, I'm only as strong as my weakest link.
Yeah,
so, like, if they're gonna be on the team, I might as well help them because that's gonna affect me later.
Yeah, how did you go from, with engineering in school, not loving the group projects, not loving working with teams, to now owning a business with colleagues? Because it's
the right people.
Yeah, that's
the right
big.
people, man. I tell you,
Is it raining?
Is that rain?
Oh, that's heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy.
That'll edit out when we're playing. Okay.
It's the right people, man. Very like-minded, very principle-based, evidence-based, very much also still willing to learn new information. An ability to see, we've all had our own fair share of struggles too. So, like, we've seen the wide spectrum of, especially more so in the fitness industry, like, where somebody can be at and then where they could potentially go.
From a skill set, from a coaching standpoint, you're saying?
Yep. And understanding the appropriate times to also delineate certain information. Like, my client who comes in who wants to kind of just look better naked doesn't need to know PRI concepts.
Right. Have you ever gone down the PRI rabbit hole at all?
So the tough part about also working with these guys is that, like, you have to be on the same level, right? So, like, Jeff goes to a PRI seminar,
This is the
seminar.
stuff we talked about on Kyle's podcast. We could, like, nerd out for a second, but go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And he goes and he comes back and goes, all right, guys, saddle up. Like, you're gonna now learn these concepts. And
PRI is as much of saddle up as it gets.
And it literally was like, oh, I got to go back through all this. This is killing me.
I went down and I came
it's
right.
It's a rabbit hole.
I pulled myself out.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It's an absolute rabbit hole. And the funny part is, though, there's definitely, again, I think the beauty of what I've done and what I've been able to do with some of my colleagues is being able to say, okay, you have a niche. This is your niche. I can now pull from that. And then if I can now use you as a resource if I need to, because I have something that I just can't troubleshoot myself. Because there's times where I've like, hey, listen, I can't get this client to move in this correct pattern. They got their IR is way off or whatever the case may be or we can start talking about infrasternal angles and get all into that. But then it's like, hey, have you tried this? And it's like, nope, I didn't. I didn't try that. Yeah, sure. And I go try it and I'm like, yes, that worked. And having ability of, to bounce ideas off of whether it's behavior, whether it's client issues that come up, or whether it's business ideas in general, like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What are you guys thinking? They're like, well, the cost that goes into that versus the output, like, what is the purpose of this? And it's like, never mind. Like, you're right. That's not the smartest decision.
So it's primarily, it's you, Jeff, and then who's
and
your
then
other?
Chris. Chris is our, he's our jack of all trades is what I call him. Yeah, man, he's the nutrition guy. And he's also, he handles all of the work that needs to be done around the gym.
Yeah.
He's definitely a carpenter.
That's like us. It's myself, Paul, and then Dan. So 3 of us have equity in the company. And those 2 guys, they save my marriage every day because if I didn't have them to talk to and bounce ideas off of, Sam would be done with me because I'd be spewing it all to her every fucking night.
I felt that. I felt that. I think all of our wives at home, because we're all married, I think all of our wives are kind of just like...
Well, you and I are married.
Yeah.
Paul and Jordan, TBD.
TBD.
Got you. I was referring to the owners for us. All of the owners are married. So we spend a majority of time at work. And they allow us to do that, and it's they keep us humbled.
Well, the other thing is sometimes I have to be the communication between Mike and Sam because Mike's so caught up in the day, and Sam's like, "Hey, so I just texted Mike, but he hasn't responded for a little while. Can you just make sure he got my text?" Yep.
So literally, we met earlier, and Chris's wife messages me like, "Hey, Chris's phone is like his phone is doing some weird thing where it's like just in like SOS mode."
Oh yeah.
And so she messaged me. She's like, "Hey, so like Chris's phone is in SOS mode, and he might be running a bit late." And I was just like, and it's funny because in those moments I'm like, man, I love my team. Like, I love the ability to be able to have our partners as well being kind of involved, and they got their own separate group chat. They probably talk about.
Yeah,
us.
Oh, they definitely
that's
do.
huge. That's like Dan's wife came in yesterday. I treated her for some just pain she's been having. And then she's like, "What do I owe you for this?" I go, "Dude, nothing. We're all just
Get out of my face.
We're all just trying to make each other's lives work.
Right.
You're not paying me a thing." And then she goes, "Can I buy you lunch?" I go, "Yep."
I'm not gonna turn down food though. I'm not stupid.
Like, you don't have to pay me, but if you're gonna give me
If you want
food,
to give me food, I'm with it. Absolutely, man. That's the cool part too, because you just get to grow together, and it does bring you closer. And when you share the same vision as well, like that's just so important, man. Because sometimes it gets tough.
It's gonna
get tough. But then like when everyone can agree that this is the outcome and this is the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah. So you went from 400 square feet to what was your next jump?
It was roughly about 2,000 square feet.
Great size jump.
Yeah. So it was we joked about it all the time because we were like, oh, our old facility used to fit in this corner of this new facility. But it was a blast. It was tough though, because in dealing with the move, we did have a terrible landlord, which made it absolutely hectic. Even like with moving in, they were supposed to have carpet down.
What are you in now? Your third or your second space?
We are technically in our third space because we operated under that office building.
Oh, that first one.
But like of our own space, this is our second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, which is the 2,000. Yeah, there's so many just things to learn. It's like
I told you guys, I said, listen, if this ever did not work, my resume is about to look wild. Like I am writing everything on there. Like they're gonna look at me and want to invite me in simply so they can see what is it that I do. Because how in the world do you have all of these skill sets?
Yeah.
you said what? Chris is the jack of all trades.
Yeah,
that might be you too.
It's a little different. It's definitely different. Like I think I can get more of maybe a teaching or speaking kind of engagement.
Right.
Chris could literally he could just figure things out, man. Like he just
He's a problem solver.
Yeah, he's the ultimate. And we joke about it all the time, man, because like growing up struggling, you're like, you learn to kind of not fend for yourself, but you learn to be real creative. You get real creative because you have no other choice. And I think it's the same with in the fitness industry, especially as you start a business, you're like, I have this to work with. How do I make this work so it makes sense? And as long as you keep revisiting that and then be willing to take in new information and learn more, you're way above or ahead of others.
This episode of Off Exit 10 is brought to you by Drink Alchemy. Fatigue and brain fog affect us all, destroying everything we pursue. Whether as an athlete, artist, creator, or entrepreneur, our mind holds the key to performing optimally. By combining the most potent organic nootropics found in nature, Drink Alchemy delivers sustainable boost to creativity, memory, energy, and focus in one epic beverage. Stop pumping your body full of excessive amounts of caffeine and unknown proprietary blends from other energy drinks, and get clean energy from Drink Alchemy's natural nootropics like lion's mane, L-theanine, and caffeine from green tea. Used by Olympians, D1 athletes, MMA fighters, and entrepreneurs, Drink Alchemy has become a huge part of my daily routine, making sure I'm functioning optimally during long days of coaching athletes, running CDSF, and getting in quality workouts myself. So do yourself a favor and ditch the energy drinks loaded with caffeine, other stimulants, and who knows what else, and head over to drinkalchemy.com today. Live with your mind unbound and save 10% off your order by using code CDSF at checkout. That's drinkalchemy.com, promo code CDSF for 10% off your order today. This episode of Off Exit 10 is brought to you by Anchor and the all-new Anchor Pro, crafted to endure the most high-performance workouts without the high cost and space requirements of a standard cable machine. Named the best portable cable machine by Men's Health Home Gym Awards, Anchor provides the full functionality of a cable machine in one small space-saving unit. Designed with user-friendliness in mind, Anchor can simply be attached to any squat rack or placed on any wall in your home gym using its intuitive sliding track mount. With up to 65 pounds of resistance, Anchor is built for high speed and controlled exercises alike, from cable presses and rows to chops and lifts. The Anchor has been a game changer for us here at CDSF, and now you can enjoy the same professional quality cable machine in your own home gym by heading over to anchortraining.com and using code CDSF10 for 10% off your order today. Get all the benefits of a cable machine without the high cost and installation fees. Enjoy the portable luxury and space-saving performance of Anchor today by going to anchortraining.com and using code CDSF10 at checkout. That's anchortraining.com, promo code CDSF10 for 10% off your order today. What are the biggest things you guys have had to learn from a business sense? We talked about before we got on air, you started as a DBA, you moved to a LLC. Because none of us, I took one business course in high school, that was it. It's saddle up and learn as you go and roll with the punches, like we said. So I guess, let's talk about, for all of us, like, what are those biggest business things? And if kids are listening or trainers who are thinking about doing their own thing, maybe we could save them some steps.
The biggest challenge that we've faced and we continue to face, in my opinion, is marketing. And marketing from the standpoint of trying to sell something to someone or trying to bring to light a service that we sell without it being cheesy and without lying and having some kind of moral sense.
And do you spend money on marketing or no?
Yeah, we got some Facebook ads.
Okay. Do you have any success with that?
Yeah. I
What's your recipe? Because I've dabbled a little bit with no success and it kind of turned me off right away, but
So I will say so we believe coaches have coaches. So we still have our own business mentor. We work with a company that helps us. It was a shaky start at first because the hardest thing for us is we can't sell a product we can't fully believe in or stand by, no matter how the delivery is, right? So a lot of what they'll teach you in marketing is the buzzwords and the tell them what they want to hear, to focus on their pain points, and you want them to know that you're talking to them. And it's like, great, but I see other coaches and trainers and facilities do that, and then that's not true. Like, lose fat fast or try my organic or try this, try.
But I think right, I always say that our industry is still very new. It started, correct. I always say it started with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s, popularizing weightlifting, right? popularizing lifting weights. That moved into high schools. That moved into commercial gyms. Then it lived in one-on-one training, selling packages in commercial gyms for many years.
Yep.
Early 2000s, you started to see gyms like ours, these training gyms appear.
Yep.
Where to me, our primary KPI,
Kind of brick and mortar, and
right,
Yep.
where the main focus isn't selling packages, isn't like what you dealt with in your commercial space.
Yeah.
Is results for clients.
Yes.
And a business model that caters to long-term results for
Yes.
clients. But the biggest KPI being, we say it's LCV, a lifetime client value.
Correct. Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. How can we set up for that? And buzzwords, quick marketing, 10 days free, 2-week trial.
It's all about relationships, man. It truly is. Because like our longest client, she's been rocking with me through the entire journey. Like honestly, she actually started with me as a client before I knew I was gonna do this thing. Like she's the first client I trained under the table at the other facilities. You know, I just trained, worked out with her, and she followed me through my entire journey. And I'll definitely she's got a special place in my heart for like believing in me and doing that. Because it was definitely that encouragement that allowed me to also step out my comfort zone. I mean, there's 1,001 other reasons, but like tracking our metrics over the time has been. And we did it more so, again, when we started working with this other company.
Like a business mentor, you said?
A business mentor. And it made us look at systems. It made us look at having those in place, or just conversations about making sure that like, hey, could you, because the way the company sets it up is like, essentially they set it up for you to be able to sell your business. We are in the field where like we don't ever see ourselves selling it.
Do you think
like,
about that?
This is our facility. I want to be. I'll go into coaching. I'll go into speaking, but I can't see myself.
This is a good conversation to have because I consider all of us in this type of space, the training style gym.
Yeah,
we're the second generation. And we can't compare ourselves to the first generation because the first generation is the Mike Boyle, Eric Cressy, Mike Reinold, Mike Robertson.
Yep.
And the difference between them and us is they came in when this space was so new that they have a tremendous amount of revenue they generate from the internet.
At YouTube.
YouTube.
They killed YouTube. I learned all from them.
Blogs, products, speaking engagements, courses. So they generate 6 figures online.
Period.
So their life's good. Their gym can run forever. They can not be at the gym. I've seen it. They cannot be at the gym. It runs fantastically because they have great systems. They can be with their families, generate revenue online. Us as the second generation, it's very hard to claim space on the internet because it's very saturated now.
It's like
throwing a rock in the
water.
water.
It's like anybody that got into social media to begin with compared to people trying to get into it now. Like when you first got into it, you could just put out good information. Now you have to put out something viral.
Right.
So it's oversaturated.
And to become viral, you got to do something extra.
What I'm saying really now, though, is a lot of us may look at those guys as inspirations for our future, but none of us have this revenue coming in from the internet. We need our brick and mortar to support our life. So it goes like, what is my exit plan? I think about that a lot. I'm always creating systems that I think, like you said, are sellable. One day is sellable. I don't think I will, but sure, it's on the table.
Correct.
I think about real estate, but like, gosh, with real estate now, just getting cash for land, getting a mortgage, it's like, I can't afford to do that right now.
I mean, for us, the biggest thing I would say, man, is the end goal was always to be able to purchase our own space.
That's what you think about. Me too. That's still like a big thing in my head.
Because once we've purchased that facility, one, we then now, worst case scenario, have the ability to sell it to then recoup something.
That's cool to hear that you're thinking that too.
And then two, it's like, hey, if I need to then break up this facility and then sublease this thing and then get either other health facilities in, because I mean, we haven't talked about that aspect or how far that down that
but my
goes,
brain lives just where yours lives now.
To kind of be able to sublease that
You're
thing.
33?
And then
Me too. Yeah.
And then be able to like, okay, this is kind of can take care of itself. And then I can either, because again, I can't see myself not coaching to some degree or not working with somebody.
That gives me like you said earlier, that gives me the fulfillment. That gives me the satisfaction. Just talking with different people.
Because we're in a very specific kind of niche in the sense of like, we work with our clients in person, right? And then the framework of how they need to develop, there's definitely a bit of aftercare, right? I call it our homework, right? So you're managing how they are also outside of here, right? Or at least you're doing your best to, right? Because you
Yes.
can't control all the other factors in order for them to be successful. But then it's like, then you have your own home life, you have your friends, your family. It's like, well, I can't keep running this way all the time. I do, from a business standpoint, need to be able to create some kind of, and I hate to call it a pyramid. I hate to call it that way because it's not, but it is. But it's
Explain what you mean by that.
some kind of delegation, like
Okay,
to be
good.
able to be able to replace myself.
Be more hands off.
Yeah, to be
Like, be more hands off and allow the systems that you've
Re-
created to
replace
to run
replace
with-
yourself
yeah.
is a good way to put it.
Right.
So to be able to replace myself, whether it's answering calls and following up on leads, whether it's running a group class, running a semi-private, running a personal training session, running a program, taking care of online coaching, training, creating templates, answering emails, whatever it is, to be able to create a position of something that I'm doing and then be able to replace myself so then I can focus on either the big picture stuff, the networking stuff, because man, I would love to do stuff like this. Like this is honestly truly where my passion is too, because this is where I feel like I can connect with people the most is when I'm able to coach or just speak on experiences, or like being able to dive in, even nerd out on some other topics and things
Yeah.
like that, to kind of bounce ideas off of. Like, this is where I feel like I flourish.
Well,
So,
the business, like building the business, is the competitive side of it, right?
yeah.
But the interacting with clients and members and that coaching, that's the and the joyfulness of it, like
Absolutely.
the enjoyment out of it, the
Yeah.
part that gives you that, like, I want, like, that's what really got us all into it,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yep.
like the relationship and rapport you build with somebody to help them better themselves.
Yeah.
Which then in turn, like, is rewarding for you, because like every time I feel like I better somebody else, it feels like I'm bettering myself too, because it's like, okay, I got better as
That's
a coach.
the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did better as a coach there. Like, I was just talking to one of I have one
Oh, that's awesome, man.
like one-on-one client that we have here that I train, and I was talking to him about, like, you know, when I get frustrated with certain things and whatnot, and I was like, I get frustrated at times when I have a kid and I'm sitting there and I can't get them in the right position. He's like, why do you get frustrated? And I'm like, it's not with the kid, it's with my inability to get that
took
kid
ownership.
into that
Yep.
position. It's like I've either overcoached it
Yep.
or I programmed wrong. Like,
That's-
All
the
that stuff
program
gets me
was wrong.
fired up,
That's
man. I love
powerful.
that.
But that's powerful in life, even if
Yes.
you're not to the fullest. Like you said before in therapy, sometimes my situation wasn't my fault. This was out of my control.
Yep.
But I mean, I guess in here in the gym sense and work sense, you may be frustrated with somebody. They may have done wrong, but you can reflect back and go, somewhere along the line, to put us in the situation we're in today with a client, I didn't execute the best I
Yes.
could. I didn't communicate the best I could. I did something wrong,
Yes.
and
that's
now
how
we're
you'll
here
always
today.
grow and develop and be better, man. That's where the secret is.
Right.
That's where the secret, where no one tells us, is like, although these odds were stacked against me, although I could also say, like, honestly, it was this person's fault.
Right.
100% was their fault. But like, where could I still have changed something?
Right.
Where could I still have, like, it's like looking for the ownership.
Right.
And there's some finding peace in that.
Yeah.
Like I said, my goal every day, let's sit down and just feel some peace.
Right. And when you're coaching and sometimes you're trying to get somebody to do something, sometimes you try to do too much to get them in there, and then you don't abort mission soon enough.
Yeah.
But then sometimes there's times where you abort mission
Shout out
too
to all my
fast.
clients who's experienced that with
Yes.
me.
How have you, because that's a progression we all take, over queuing. What are things you'll go to or things that have helped you over the years over queue less? Say less to accomplish more.
You got some good questions, man. That's a good one. That's a good one. A big part of that, I would say, one is truly understanding programming, and understanding where that current client's position is at, whether it be through assessments or just, and not traditional assessments. Like, I'm not doing an FMS screening or anything, right? But like, I just want you to move how you would normally move. And then I'm going to take a look at that as you're being your baseline. And then me having enough experience and knowledge to be able to assess where you are on that spectrum of like beginner, intermediate, advanced, and be able to delegate an appropriate amount of stimulus to drive the adaptation that I'm looking for without having to overcomplicate things, right? Oh, my knee hurts when I squat. Okay, well, you're not going to not squat with me. I'm going to tell you that right now. So we're going to figure this out. So like, does it hurt when you squat to this level? No. Well, that's what we're squatting. And we're going to build a really strong squat out of this position until you feel comfortable enough to retest or go back through a full range of motion, or we search and we find another movement or selection that's better suited for your knees. Or like, you know what, we strengthen some other areas before we revisit this. But like your quality of life, unless you got some structural damage where like it's absolutely,
you got to be able to squat.
You got to be able to, you're going to have to do this, whether it's today, tomorrow, your next upcoming years. And I know it's going to be uncomfortable for you to go through it, because whether you've had to deal with trauma, pain, whatever caused you to be in this position, because also we don't think about the behaviors that go around that too. Like the client who takes the elevator because their knee hurts.
Right.
So they always take the easy way out. So then now it's like, no, I want to build that knee up for you so we can now build your quality of life, because it's more important than the gym. Anybody who I say is too addicted to the gym, like you might need to get therapy too, because that can't be life.
Well,
life has got to, there's so many avenues, there's so many perspectives.
That was
like,
me in my teenage years through early 20s. The addicted to the gym,
Same.
paired with my black and white thinking and anxiety.
Yeah. Yep.
And it took me tearing my pec when I was like 26. It sounded like somebody ripped a towel in my ear, bro. Shh. I was like, hey, move my shoulder on.
What were you doing?
Benching. I was in, and I looked, right, you look back, hindsight, I was doing like a variant of like a German volume training. So it was a lot of volume over a period of time. It wasn't a lot of weight. I tore it at like 185.
Okay.
Just tore it at the muscle tendon junction in the muscle. So no surgery, tendons on the bone. If I like flex
you lucked out.
I lucked out. If I
out.
flex my pec on the right, I got like a little, you can see like a little divot where the tendon and muscle tendon junction kind of tore in the muscle tissue. But it just, I wasn't able to mentally handle that because it took the gym away from me. That was one of the keystone things that then it evolved me as a person. I added this other layer to me where I go, bro, you're more than
so much character.
Yeah, you're more than just like fucking. This sounds stupid, but like you're just more than like working out. There's more to you than that, and like that started to improve my relation because I started therapy really, and then that started to improve my relationship with my wife. My relationship
Kudos
with
to you.
clients.
Big shout out to
Yeah,
you for
with
doing
that, but it was like a silly thing. But I was that person where the gym was everything.
So like I started to build my identity around what I was doing in the gym. I'm going 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm doing flag football. I'm working out with I used to work out with a calisthenics work group. So like I'm training with those guys. At that time I was competitively powerlifting. So I'm doing that and I'm just running myself through it. I'm going 7 days a week and I was working out and I did something to my hip. And to be fair, I have no idea what happened. I have kind of self-diagnosed, which is also trash, and it's not a thing. But I think I tore my labrum in my hip, right? And it just totally threw me off. And I couldn't train, I couldn't squat, could barely deadlift. It tweaked my back a bit, and weight that was like I avoided the gym at that point. And the tough part was I was also a coach at that time. So the difficulties of me now coaching clients through progressing and knowing that I can't do anything, like I'm watching my weight go up, I'm watching my habits become piss poor, and I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like it was trash, and Jeff actually helped pull me out of it, and unknowingly, and it was such a simple conversation. It was, I'm sitting at the desk, I'm doing some paperwork, it's kind of empty.
Is that when you met him or you had known him before?
No,
Jeff?
I've actually known him before. He was actually kind of like the big bro growing up through the YMCA. I was heavy in the Black and Latino Achievers program, but he started his career at the Y much sooner, and he was a coach at that point, and that's kind of how we met. And he also was part of the theater group that I was in, and we were always in scenes together, so we definitely got a history there.
You guys ever break out in improv in the middle of the gym?
Yes, actually.
It's gotta
Actually,
be a
or
riot.
old songs and stuff that we've had, or old concepts, or everyone kind of has everyone in the group kind of has their thing, and you there's an improv. There's a lot of mimicry, right? So like you kind of would poke fun at other people and do some of that.
How would it work? Somebody would throw out a concept. You guys would go
like,
with it.
It would, yeah. It'd be like a trigger word or something like that. Like somebody that we know that used to say something, and then it was like we almost make eye contact. It was like that was a scene.
It drives my wife crazy when I'll tell her about some interactions I have with people say.
Yeah.
I go, I did this bit today. She goes, you did a bit today? I go, well, yeah, like it's kind of like a bit. I go, I thought of a thing.
Yep.
I knew it would connect these two people together.
Yes.
I knew it would make them laugh.
That's
I
exactly
go,
what happens.
I did a bit.
Jordan,
She goes,
all I'm thinking about,
It's a bit.
what?
all I thought about when Mike said that was Sam's face and reaction when he says that. Like, you did a bit. What the? You
What I'm
did a
talking
bit.
about.
Like, what are you talking about?
But do you understand that?
100% I do, and it happens every time, man. And those are
Sam, listen to this segment.
Those
I'm
are-
sending
those
this
are-
shit to you.
those are cool moments that we get to share as coaches and trainers, and as friends too. So like even when we started the business,
Isaiah, can you say for Sam, like, it's okay for Mike to do bits at work?
Hold up, am I gonna get in trouble? 'Cause
Nah,
I don't
go.
No, you won't get in trouble.
No.
All right. So like, I want to make sure. No, it's okay. It's okay for Mike to have a bit. It's actually pretty fun. A lot of people do it.
Thank you.
No problem. But yeah, when we first sat down and talked about opening the business and what the vision was, man, before anything, we consider ourselves as brothers, and we said we know how business and
You
money
just typed in
gets.
my password?
Yeah.
That's love.
I legitimately could steal everything of
that's
Mike's.
love
business
right
partners, right?
Everything of Mike's.
Exactly.
I could just steal it and never come back.
Never come back.
Hey, Mike, the lights just turned off at 8:06. 8:06, the lights turned off.
Dan Jones. It drives Dan crazy that when the lights turn off. 8:06, they're off.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, the lights out back just turned off.
Dan's like, they should be on at night. They're lights for the night. They turn off at 8:06.
Well, and then we got the guys that want to deliver trucks that don't want to hit people's cars back here.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, landlords.
Yep.
I don't know. We're talking about bits, talking about
Improv in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's we sat down and we said before anything we feel like we're brothers, so it's like we don't want to create any animosity amongst each other.
Do you guys
one
share?
another.
Do you guys share clients, or they're your individual clients?
So part of our model is we do have individual clients, and we do have our specific niches. However, that's why we also make sure that we're all having the same kind of background and knowledge and principle-based approach, because what will happen is, say for example, the way our model works is, say for example, I can't meet with a client on a certain day, especially more so it's our entire model, but this usually happens more so for like semi-private, but it's for all clients. Essentially, if I can't meet with my client, instead of inconveniencing the client, if there's another coach that has a spot that's open at that time, they're more than welcome to work with that coach at that time. And then the app that we utilize to do programming and things like that for our clients, the other coach will have access to, and they literally can just read their program and then maneuver them through their workout.
That's good systems.
And it's been the most phenomenal change. It's the biggest adjustment that we made since working with our mentor. The biggest adjustment that we made to our structure and how we offer, because on one, it really is a win-win, right? Because in one aspect, as a coach, I now then can make more money per unit of time, right? Which is essential for my longevity in coaching. And then the client themselves also, they get a bit of a reduced rate than our premier services was one-on-one, right?
With
But
the semi-private,
with
you're
the
saying?
semi-private, yeah, correct.
Yep.
But then they also get a sense of community, right? Because if they're going to the same time, the same block, it's like, hey, you haven't been showing up to these sessions. Like,
Yeah.
how is everything? And that's something that just happens organically, and we love it. Now, granted, we try to do a little bit of like, we want to pair some of these times together. Now, of course, but sometimes it's like, that's the only time that this client has. So the cool part is they all still get their own individual program. So they all work off their own baseline, their own foundations, have their own thing. It's just kind of like when I was teaching, right? So like if I'm running sections, I'm going to bounce around as they're doing their individual work.
Yeah, when you brought up how the teaching, like the level 1, 2, 3, 4, and splitting them up into groups, it reminded me of like how we do our our training. In
Well,
it.
think about our newest coach who just went full time this month, Matt Pierce.
Oh,
has
congrats, Matt. That's big. I know
Big.
what it's
Nobody
like to go
calls him Matt
full-time.
though. Just call him Pierce.
Call him Pierce.
Call him Pierce.
My bad, Pierce.
It's
Forgive
okay.
me.
It's okay.
But he
You
has
didn't know.
he has a teaching background.
Hmm.
He started doing part time with us. I said, dude, I don't know when he first did it when or if I'll have full time. So he continued his master's in teaching, did his student teaching. We ended, he worked
He
hard to
fucking
help earn
grinded.
his spot,
Yeah.
grinded.
Yeah.
The gym has grown. He got his spot full time, but his teaching background has made him a stud.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's honestly, again, it contributes a lot to what I do because that's really all that what we do is teach and educate and coach. And it's kind of funny because we talk about it all the time in our facility. Like sometimes we don't know what to call ourselves because calling myself just a personal trainer isn't doing my experience any service. It's actually quite disrespectful. But like
What do
I
you
also don't know what to call myself that
you're-
other people would familiarize themselves with.
What? I don't have an answer to this. What do you think of yourself in your head as what you do for a living?
Oh my God, that's such a hard question.
I don't have an answer.
Because people ask me all the time, like I'm like,
Strength coach, business owner.
like-
I
I also
don't-
hate talking about what I do.
Right.
That I do too.
Like it's
This
just
is
one of
Yeah.
those things.
But
Like,
what do I think of? What do you think of yourself? I don't know.
like, and ultimately, like when I think of it, because like originally I went to school to be a phys ed teacher, and then I switched to exercise science.
Mhm.
So I did like 2.5 years, basically right before I was going to be student teaching. I decided that wasn't the route I wanted to go.
Right.
So I always have viewed myself as some sort of like educator, coach, teacher.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
like, so coach is like how I would kind of like a coach. Like that's because that's what I do most of the time. Whether
Yeah.
it's another trainer or another coach that's
Yep.
in here or a client or whatever it is, it's like that's the basis of what I do.
So interestingly enough, and this might be a bit of a me kind of escaping the question here, but like
That's fine. You can escape all you want.
Yeah.
a bit of it really depends on who I'm talking to. Because I
think
don't
that is too true.
I don't expect everyone to truly understand what it is that I do on a day-to-day that's justified by the title that I give it. So like with some clients, it's like, no, I'm a trainer, right? Because that's the capacity at which I have to work with them at the level that they're at. And then there's somewhere I'm like, no, they've got some experience in here. I can be more of a coach now because they're a little bit self-sufficient in some of these things that I have to go through. I'm more now talking to them more about concepts and behaviors and habits and mindsets and those kind of things. And then there's the parts where like if I'm figuring out a problem more on the business side, I am an entrepreneur that day. I am somebody who solves problems. And because of my field and the hats that I wear, it really will change kind of how I structure, how I respond when someone asks what I do.
Yeah.
But usually it just ends up being business owner.
Yeah, me too.
Like it just kind of like I'm a business owner. Or I'll just say I'm a person. Sometimes I'll just say I'm a personal trainer because I know that some other people, that's what they know. But it's so funny, and my shout out to my wife for calling me out on it because we were at a wedding and people were asking, oh, what does he do? And I was like, I'm a personal trainer. She's like, no, you're not. You're a business owner. And I go, yeah, I am. You know, I am a business owner. I do things that are difficult and different than and didn't take the normal route. Like it is, and there's something to be said about that because I always forget. I always forget sometimes of like, again, where I started versus where I am.
Yeah.
All the habits, the skill sets that it's so interesting learning something new and then being like, I already do that. I just didn't know they had a name to it.
Yeah.
Like throughout the business mentorship, they're teaching people how to sell. And I was like,
Who do you use? Can I ask? For a
yeah,
business
it's
mentor?
called Two Brain Business.
Okay.
The owner is Chris Cooper. We followed him. I promise you probably see the ads.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
like they put so much money into their ads, it's ridiculous. But we followed them for like a good year, just their newsletter, and it was extremely beneficial. And they got to a point where we just came out of COVID, luckily, and was like, all right, we may need to start looking at things to do things a little bit different because we also had to plan for the move. And we wanted to make sure that we had the best tools accessible to us, or to give us the best chance. We figured we might need a coach or a mentor on this thing to move from what we were doing to where we needed to go. And we're like, well, we might as well find something. And since we were using them or kind of got some information from them or took some ideas from them, we were like, okay, cool, we'll call out. And we've been working with them. And again, I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit rocky in the beginning because again, a lot of our systems and the way we did things didn't format how they coached it or how they would teach it. So like off bat, when they were like, oh, so who's the owner? Like all three of us, we have equal partnership. And they were like, oh, well, we have to look at your metrics a little differently because the share is split different. And so it started to get into that. Or it was like, we all have, so like when we started talking about marketing, it was like, oh, so who's your avatar? Who's your ideal client? And we all looked at each other. I was like, well, mine is different than his. His is different than mine. So like, how do we collectively integrate all of our niches into one singular avatar or person? And the way that we did it isn't catchy. It isn't sexy, right? It isn't stopping anybody from scrolling. Become the best version of yourself. They're like, yeah, I do that all the time. Like, I'm scrolling. Whereas opposed if it was like, no, my niche is the woman who's between 25 and 38, who's a single mom and we never got that direct or that specific because
is that
all
a real
of our
thing though? How hard is it to build a business on one little niche like that?
If you're really good at it, not hard at all.
Right. Yeah.
And that just takes years.
Years.
And that's where the experience comes in.
And that also comes down to like when you do have that specific niche, now it's okay when you are marketing. That's literally all you're targeting. So now over time, especially with how algorithms work, like that's who it's going to go to.
Yeah.
And you can kind of limit yourself as a coach, which can be good. Everything has their pros and cons, right? So like again, earlier when we talked, you talked about specifically you guys kind of working with athletes and teams and now kind of moving more towards where you're working with kind of more individuals or gen pop, where like ours is reverse. Like, and the funny part is when I studied, exercise science and strength and conditioning kind of on my own, it was like, oh, I know I want to deal with teams. And it just didn't happen that way. And I was like, well, these middle-aged individuals are paying the light bills.
Yeah.
And, organic marketing is number one form of marketing. So like naturally what started to happen was they started to tell their friends,
Word of mouth.
No, that's good. I think
they came in and it was like, oh, well, this is who we serve now.
I think what young coaches need to know is that you do feel like reading stuff on the field or online or the generation before us, the Boyle, the Cressy, the Robertson, it's like it looks like they're working with all athletes.
They don't.
But what Mike Reynolds, who's one of my mentors, before I opened this, had told me, build up your Gen Pop clientele as much as possible.
Yes.
They can go on 12-month contracts. Seasons won't stop them. They'll give you your recurring revenue all year. They'll pay your bills.
100%.
Yeah.
They keep the lights on. They're the ones who keep showing up, whether it's a holiday, whether it's off season, on season. They're the most consistent throughout the group. So we got a bunch of those. And then after a while, it was like, oh, we can now start to build in these other areas. But after a while, it's like, is that necessary? Like, is this now my niche? Because I tell you, that's not what I'm not the most passionate about. I am, but I'm not. Because in one aspect, to teach Gen Pop is definitely where my passion derived from, simply because to train an athlete to be an athlete, it's not always rewarding, right? So it's in a sense of like, they're going to work hard regardless. They're self-motivated.
If you're going to train athletes now, you are just a manager of their time and their body, because youth sports is wild. There's so many demands and time that gets consumed with their high school team, high school mandatory lifts, high school mandatory practices, high school mandatory camps, club team mandatory practices. That, dude, we don't have any high schoolers, maybe one or two on like an unlimited membership. Yeah. It's like 2 times a week, sometimes 3, mostly 1 and 2.
And then respectfully, when you start talking about cost, parents are kind of like, well, they're doing so much with the school already. To now then after school, drive you over to a facility to do more of this. And then I got to pay for AAU. And I got to do all these other things. I don't have time to send you to another coach.
This is why we've shifted marketing more. Like, we're always going to have our athletes. We've locked in on that kind of we've locked in on that market
Yeah.
up here. We
Yep.
got it, and we're gonna keep having it. But we've started to shift more towards adults for all those reasons we just said.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul, do you agree or disagree? Parents want performance gains. They bring their athletes to us, their kids to us for performance gains. But over time, as kids are doing more at school, more in club teams, it's more we are a non-biased, trustworthy source to keep their kids healthy.
Yeah, like when I talk to a parent or a kid, especially when I'm talking to them about in season, I always refer to us as a third party, non-biased person that cares for what's best for your kid.
I think that's a perfect description of what that is.
And
Yeah.
they appreciate
For that age group. Yeah.
Because I tell them, I'm like, listen, even if it's once a week, they're coming in here, they're getting a check-in, right?
Yes.
They're getting somebody that's going to check in on how their body feels without caring that, like,
How they played.
Right? Like, I care how you play. Like, I want you to excel.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? But, like,
nobody wants their player to suck because then that also reflects on.
But I'm saying
like,
how
that's not like whether you succeeded or failed doesn't matter to me.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But I want to know, how's your body feel?
Yeah.
How do you feel mentally? How do you feel physically? Because then it can be like, okay, today we're going to do 2 sets of everything instead of 3. And we're going to switch this up and we're going to switch that up.
To be able to auto-regulate, is so important.
And then it's like, okay, we're going to do a little bit more mobility work today because you just came off of a game. You play football. Your body is destroyed.
Yep.
Like, let's get you feeling better so that way when you go to the next practice or the next game, you feel like you can compete
That's
the way you
awesome,
want
man.
to.
That's dope that you guys are doing that and instilling that in the youth.
That is
because
exactly how I would say it.
As a youth athlete, you can run yourself in the dirt, especially with I think the hardest time. So when I helped I did a strength and conditioning for the basketball team. And the hardest thing for me to battle was when old school ways of coaching versus kind of the physical demands or exercise science, right? So like, I remember talking to some of the athletes. I'm explaining what the drill is. The coach comes and runs over and goes, "Yo, Williams, chill out. They're all not listening. Everybody on the line, you're running sprints." And I'm like, wait. I got explosive work to do with them after sprints ain't it today. I don't want that. And then from a psychological or behavior standpoint is, one, I don't want you to instill those habits. Now they feel like every time they did something wrong, they get punished. Why am I and it's tough with especially masculine sports where it's like you create this warrior mentality where you go out, it's the gridiron, we're going to die on the field. Die? Come on, guys, die. Like I'm all for going hard.
Right.
And I mean like till my hands bleed. But die for football?
Yeah.
Or any sport.
For any sport, and I get it. Don't tell me it's not to be an athlete, to play competitively, and then to stop. That's a special pain that I don't think unless you're an athlete you truly grasp what that feels like.
But I think the newer coach, our generation of coach, or the coach that cares and is educated on psychology and physiology,
right,
is and anatomy is you're blending. I'm gonna build a warrior who's resilient to life, but I'm also empathetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, so no, I understand. So like when I'm talking to the kids, I'm like, hey, like they're kids, bro. I'm a newcomer coming in, teaching them things that they're going to work hard for the next hour and a half. It's okay. They talk for a little bit. Yes, I'm going to talk over them. The ones who will get it. And then I'll repeat myself. And this is also the benefit of having some kind of educational experience was that like, no, I get it. You're not going to get 100% all the time. And if you do, it's more in the collegiate aspect, or it's like top tier and it's almost like a militaristic type sport camp. And it's like, we produce the best of the best, and it's, well, all right, well, not everybody's gonna make it to that level, so like, it's okay to be kind.
And how many of the kids those kids
how
are
many
going to
of
have
them are
like
really getting there? And I'm not saying
psychological
don't
issues after
strive
that.
for it. I'm not saying don't strive for it. We always strive for it, but it's like be understanding that like statistically speaking, not every one of your athletes that are playing with you all the time are going to make it to the big leagues or to work in the field where they can now then build a life off.
Yeah,
of.
none, barely any.
It's barely any. So like, I quickly realized any of my hopes to play professional anything ended real quick. Like my mom got hurt, injured, and it was like, okay, I got to work. Yep. Well, that goes because there's no way. And could you hear the crazy stories when people are like, oh, I stayed up 2 nights in a row and I grinded and yeah, there's something to be said about a grind, but like not everybody can operate at that level all the time. There's definitely a few and far between. I'm not saying that people can't achieve that level. I'm saying that like statistically, it just doesn't happen. And sometimes whether it's the individual themselves that don't have the skill set or the the backing or the environment, the support, like all those things come into play when we start talking about how some of these athletes transcend to the next level. And people take that for granted. Like some people just have the right domino set up. They know the right people. They get the right support. They have the nice financial background. They can afford to get a coach early on, whatever the case may be.
This is the
from
trouble.
Economic standpoint.
The economics is a big trouble in youth sports now because you're paying to play and travel. Travel's where you get your exposure to college now, not high school. You're paying to play for your development, strength and conditioning, skills lessons. And up here, I don't know what it's like down by you, but a lot of the bigger high schools, we just use Shen for an example, they're paid to do your school camps.
Yeah.
So now, which is a fucking crazy concept. You have a kid in a public school.
Ridiculous, bro.
Shen, you have demographics that range from very wealthy to kids that are not well off with shitty family situations. Now you're saying these kids who aren't well off can't pay for their school camp, and if you don't do your school camp, you can't make your school team?
Every athlete isn't coming to the team with the same predicament and resources. They're not. So some of them coming with a chip on their shoulder. Some of them are coming with I'm doing this for fun. And that's why I think it's so important too to have for a coach to be able to understand that, especially if you want to create rapport and some kind of cohesiveness amongst your athletes. Is like you got to understand where the personalities of your players are, where they come from, where they're trying to go.
Yep.
Because like not for nothing, when I was playing sports, man, don't come on this team talking about, man, I'm just having fun. You can go somewhere. I'm trying to win.
But let me ask you, when you started playing sports, you did it because it was fun, right?
Correct.
But winning is more fun. And I think
it was the shame or embarrassment of losing for me.
Right.
Like I can't sit back and said, like, so somebody came over and be like, I beat you. And if I could say, man, but I didn't really try, like that doesn't sit well with me.
So if you give it your all, like that's all you're asking. It's like have fun, but
just
like
have fun.
Give it your all.
If giving your all, have fun and just give it your all. And that, I don't care what sport it is. I don't care what level it is. Now, granted, once you start getting into like, I tell people, when you really get to high school, you should know. Because the amount of work that you even have to do in high school to be great to get to that next level is going to really make or break you. Because people don't understand what that transition from high school to college is.
Right.
That's a whole world that's separate. Mommy or daddy aren't holding your hands.
Yeah.
Nobody's waking you up.
Yeah.
You got practice at 5 a.m. for your first round.
Yep.
Right? You got film. You got study hall. You have your regular classes.
All that. I wrote an article years ago. I forget where. Maybe it was one of Reinhold's websites. But I just said, if you're a parent, here's the biggest rocks at each age level you got to understand. And then as an athlete, as you progress, middle school, move well, just get in the gym.
Yep. Be exposed to as much as you can.
Yes. High school, you just got to get strong and develop work ethic.
Period.
College, time management.
Yes.
And professional recovery.
Yes.
Like some big rocks to take care of.
Yep.
And going back to like the foundation of it, right? And you know, because you talking about like having fun, and then like you had the kids that show up and like they want to like go to the next level.
Shout out
whatever
to
it is.
Jordan. You used to edit all my articles back in the day.
Shout out
Remember
to
that?
I remember
That helped me kind of. That was like a.
Jordan been in the trenches.
Yeah,
That-
Jordan's a
Jordan's the
I know my role.
He does. Listen, those years were pivotal in my career to kind of just like get myself out there, and people knew who I was.
It worked.
It worked,
Yeah.
and that was this Jordan on this podcast. That was Jordan on those articles.
Yeah. That's
Wow,
dope.
bro. Yeah, that's crazy.
But like with youth sports, like one of the things in I think it's called the Pure Athlete podcast. Jeff Francoeur. I've seen a lot of clips. I mean, Jeff Francoeur played for the Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
It's a great podcast for any parent or youth kid or anybody that's like in youth sports to listen to because they talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
But the best thing I saw on there, Nick Foles was on it, and he was like, the most selfish thing that he said he sees is parents and coaches taking the joy out of youth sports from kids, because that's the best part about youth sports is the joy you see in a kid's face when they're playing that sport. Now, obviously, as you get into the varsity levels and eventually, obviously, college, like, there's still a joy though. Like, think about Patrick Mahomes is the best football player on the planet. Okay, I don't care what.
Oh,
anybody
that was
says.
a stern.
He's
My man
feeling
chest
strong
poked
about
up. He said, "Let's."
But when you
I said what
watch
I
him,
said.
but when you watch him, you
I
can
said what I said.
even if you say Josh Allen, but you watch Josh Allen, you watch Patrick Mahomes, you watch the best players in the world.
Yeah.
They are having Steph Curry in basketball.
Man,
they're having fun.
When they're in the zone and they're focused, there's nothing like a
They look like little kids out
like
there.
a touchdown, or there's nothing like a I got the first yard where they stare in that camera and they get real animalistic and it's like, yeah, and one, or like or whether it's like they can't hold me, whatever it is. To me, that's the purest expression that you could ever see or experience. And it's, especially as an athlete, like because literally sometimes I broke a tackle, I cut through the second line, oh, no one's catching me. All of the work I've been putting in, all of the time, the effort, the film, I got my touchdown. I just won. And it's a small win because, yes, you have the bigger one as a team, as a whole, you want to win. But, like, individually, you just won. And then there's no better feeling that. And you do that a lot in youth sports when you develop.
Well, and to me, too, I don't watch much sports now. I see moments like that. I'm always I like to watch documentaries. I like to see successful people. I like to relate it back to maybe things I'm doing or things I could do better. That's always been me. But I see that. I go, what are they doing? I go, they're present. They're so present in the moment.
They have to be.
That's power. It's so powerful.
Well,
it's like.
And the other thing, too, is like, you know, they're present in that moment. And you talk about them screaming in it. Like, I love when I see like Baker Mayfield throw a 60-yard touchdown pass, and then he is sprinting full speed down the field, going crazy, losing his mind because like he wants to go celebrate with his team. And like that's what like kids would do. Right?
Yeah, yep.
And like that's what I love about watching. And then the other thing is like Pat McAfee said, like he likes going, and this is why I think I like watching sports, is I like watching people in specific things that are the best at their craft. And he talks about that. Like he'll go to a theater performance. He'll go to any sporting event that's like like he's like, I want to see the people that are the best of the best do the best. Yeah. And like that's why I think that's part of the reason why I like watching professional sports more than like college sports. Like I want to watch the best of the best. Yeah. I love college sports, don't get me wrong.
You ever see the best of the best play those that are low, like
Average Joe's or whatever it is?
I watched I forgot his first name. He played for the Celtics, Scalabrini.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I watched him play with a bunch of semi-pro.
And he made him look stupid.
And I watched this and I go, this man averaged towards his last year like 7 minutes a game. And he is washing. I mean, like it is as clear as day that they are not even remotely on his level. And I'm like, that is, and I don't think and that's why I think it's so important for youth sports to be able to give people the full picture. Right. Right? Because like I am no way, shape, or form going to deter. If you said you want to be a professional athlete, I'm going to push you and I'm going to give you all the tools that can get you to where you need to be. But I also need you to understand there's somebody out there right now that is doing more than you, one with less, and there's somebody doing more than you without even trying.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, for a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, I don't know if, and I'm like, I don't say that to like break anyone down. I say it because like that's the reality.
If that's your goal, like I want you to know what the reality is.
That if you truly want to make it to that next level, some of the behavior that you're going to see from the people who get there is psychotic. Like sometimes we talk about like Black Mamba and you know RIP, one of the greatest to do it, right? So, but like
he was
when people would always talk about his stories. And people are like, yeah, I'm like, no, I don't know if you want to emulate that. Like, that's not healthy.
No.
Right.
But like, if you had the same vision and his dream is his dream, right? So like, if his dream was to be the best to do it, and he's up there, right? Yep. If that was his dream, that's what it took. He's accepted that. Not everybody can accept that, and that's okay. That is okay. You do it to whatever level that you feel comfortable with. But like, to get to that level, anybody who did you guys watch The Last Stand with Michael?
Last Dance, yeah.
Last Dance, excuse me. Jesus Christ. I was like, all right, this man's built different. Yeah. I looked at him and I took it, and that was personal. What?
Well, and that's
he took my money. What?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, you created just random scenarios? I mean, if that's what it takes, but like, if anybody's listening, like that don't sound. Well, do you sleep, bro? Like, there's no way that you can sleep comfortably. Like, it's just not it. But that's what it takes. But some kids, when in youth sports, they don't realize that. They just feel as though they haven't been humbled enough. Like playing AAU will humble you. Yeah. Like I remember playing we was playing basketball. We're 15U, and we traveled out to Jersey to face some guys out there. Yo, I'm 5'7" on a good day, right? Point guard comes out 6'2", and I go, okay, today's gonna be rough. Now I'm tenacious, so I'm very much like, we on ass, right? Like I'm guarding up. He's gonna have to get by me. And then I look at like, oh, the rest of your team is, all right, guys. Hey, we're gonna go out there. We're gonna have some fun today. Y'all dunking in the layup line, bro. In 15, all of you.
Yeah. Well,
Jesus Christ, no. And I'm like, you know what? Today's gonna be a character building day. This is gonna be work for us, and let's see how gritty we can get. And I remember my coach literally, and this is me speaking for, like, this is my coach saying this. Like, hey guys, let's make sure we get out there and we have some fun. And I'm like, you didn't say that last week we smashed that other team. Like, it wasn't have fun. It was, hey, don't take, your foot off their throats or their necks.
But that is a mature thing. It's even business or life or sports. Like, this situation sucks, but somewhere deep in the situations, there's a silver lining. I could get better.
Where can we find a good thing out of this? Because otherwise, it's just gonna suck the whole time.
And you bringing up Brian Scalabrini's funny because it makes me think of like also a reality check for like kids. Like, talk all the smack you want about professional players. As you said, Brian Scalabrine might have averaged 7 minutes. He might have averaged 3 points a game for his entire career. And Brian Scalabrine is significantly closer to LeBron James than you are to Brian Scalabrine.
90%. You're better than 99% of the population.
Like he is. If LeBron is here, Brian Scalabrini's here, and guess what? You're way down here.
It's not even close. And again, I don't. Sometimes I feel like it's tough, especially doing these kind of things, because people take so many things out of context.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're always like, wait, let me make sure. I'm not saying no one or anyone is not capable of getting to that next level, and you wish that like it was just understood, right? But like it's really not. Some people truly believe that. Whatever they believe, but
believe that the Earth is flat.
Like, right. Like then it's like,
but not everybody's gonna get to that level, and like you gotta have somebody that's gonna be realistic with you about like what you got to do to get there, and then also realistic with you that like this may or may not happen.
You don't get to have the same opportunities as some of these other kids have.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially if you start. So like when I started playing ball, I didn't pick up a basketball till 9th grade. I've played soccer. I did taekwondo.
And you're not Joel Embiid, who's 7'3", so
yeah, and you can't beat genetics, man.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing that like I think the hardest part for especially youth athletes is like, I'm sorry, he's probably always going to be better than you, probably because of who his mom and dad are, and you're not going to do about it.
I've said on here before,
you're going to have to create a strategy that's better. You have to get smarter.
Yes.
But like physically.
Yeah, some people have a V4, some have a V6, some have a Hemi. It's like that's it. You got one of those engines.
You got what you got, and the goal for you now is to hone in on that skill set, and then you become the best version of what you got. Because what else is there to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Geez, the Kobe thing, Jay. We all remember that. I remember texting Jordan, being like, "This is on TMZ. What do you think?" He goes, "TMZ."
I thought it was fake, bro.
Jordan, what'd you say? You're just like,
TMZ's like always right. Like it gets a shit site, but they're well sourced. If they report something, it's like
I get all my information from 50 Cent. So like
that's mad funny because I say that all the time.
Anything that happens with anything, I go to 50. What did 50 Cent say first?
If 50 Cent said it, we need to investigate.
Real.
We need to investigate.
Because he don't miss. What's that meme that comes out? It's like that man don't. Snoop Dogg's like he don't ever miss. No. He don't miss. He calls everything out. I envy how forward he is and how he could just. But he has like I say whatever I want, and you could talk to my lawyer money. So
right.
The best that I saw, I was like scrolling one morning, and like I saw the post was on my feed where it was some jeweler showing like a chain being like, I just replicated 50's chain, and you see like 50 Cent was the first comment, and it was just like, you're gonna regret this. Is what he commented.
Like my lawyer's commented.
And then you see the next day he like sued the shit out of this guy.
And I don't know because I've actually spent time looking and I can't find it. So I don't know, maybe if I didn't do enough research that day, but like. Who is this man's lawyer? He is the LeBron James of lawyers because he's just racking them up. And at this point, I just figured he got a team. Just walks around and like maybe manages his social media or something because like he'll literally post something and be like, "Hey, you owe me money," and then win.
That's what Johnny Cochran and
like,
Kardashian.
That's the easiest setup ever. Like, hey, go make my money. Go get my money from me, right? So like. Ridiculous.
Yeah. How do you guys decide what music to play in the gym?
Oh man, it ranges. It honestly truly depends on who's in the gym. We have such an eclectic group of people where you can go from listening to country to like binaural beats or like Mongolian chants to medieval drill beats. It's
You do it all.
It's literally all Metallica, old school R&B. Like it literally, there's not one genre I think that doesn't get played at some point.
Well,
it really just depends on the crowd that's in there. Sometimes, usually, it's whatever coach is first kind of sets the scene.
Yeah.
And then we also recognize like there's some of our clients who, if they're on a day where like they're attempting a very hard set, it'd be like, yo, what do you want to listen to?
Oh, I do that. Yep.
What do you want to listen to?
Yeah,
this is on you. We're going to highlight you for right now. And it's cool because like everyone's cheering, they're clapping. And, I love that about our community. So shout out to all of our community members, definitely, and our other coaches that are there too, because they help foster that.
Yeah.
But
Fostering that is important.
It's a beautiful thing, man. I watched this man grind out a hard set of 6 the other day, and like everyone in the gym at this point just like paused. They're watching him. He's going ass to grass with his squats, and I'm like, man, that's what it's like. That's what brings me joy in this field, because I don't think working that hard can be replicated, and it's not something that can just be built overnight. Like some people got it and then they don't, and then they only have it because they've worked at it, right? So like when I watch somebody go out and they grind a hard set, I'm like, that's what it's about. Like it was difficult, but like you could have stopped at 5.
Yeah.
You could have stopped at 4. You went for your rep was 6 and you said, nah, I'm getting 6 today. Because honestly, at 3, I was like, hold up. Like maybe some technical kind of things are starting to break down, but like realistically, it wasn't in a position that would potentially hurt them, right? But it was like, okay, they're building right now. And there's something so special about watching that happen, especially with Gen Pop. Because I go in a weight room, a high school weight room with athletes, and I'm like, you see testosterone flying out, the locker room. But like you go into a setting where you have those that are retired, our 65 plus community that are in there, and like deadlifting 225 for a single, and it's like, yeah, you're built different. Like I want to be like that when I grow up.
Yeah.
Like despite almost being on this planet for a century, like some of our clients are like that close, right? And it's like I have one gentleman, he's like 73 or 74, and like he shows up once a week without fail. Like it just, this is my part. And I think too, the gradual development of me as a coach, for one, was when I started dealing with some of that population, because what they look for is completely different. So like I'm sitting down in a consultation, it's like, hey man, so what are your goals? I'm just kind of trying to be around for as long as I can. And it was like, ooh, I don't know if I know how to coach that yet. Like, am I putting you on a 5x5? And I'm going 5-3-1. Like, am I doing German volume training? Like, how am I going to program this so it makes sense? I can't train you the same way as I train my youth athletes. And like, we increment, weights of 5 pounds or whatever each week, or whatever the case may be, whatever the structure, the protocol is. But I can't do it the same way with you. Like, I also need to understand how you move and what your quality of life is outside of here. So I got to pick my battles a lot better, and I got to also be able to auto-regulate a lot better. Like the other day, he went to the dentist, got his tooth pulled, came in. It's like, I'm ready to work. And I was like, ooh, wait, that's a lot, man. How you feeling? Like,
can you feel your face right now?
Right. Like, are you good? Like, we're going to take it easy today. You know what? I understand the importance of just moving, and then sometimes that's what it takes. Like that's what the next step is. Like, so sometimes it's like, yeah, you could have went home, you could have rescheduled, but like sometimes mentally that does more damage than good.
Yeah.
So it's like, because now I sit in the fact that like, oh, did I really push myself? Because like, no, I could have did it, and I chose the lazy way today.
The auto-regulate, the adjust on the fly is another big lesson for trainers. Is like I have my structure of my program.
Correct.
But I'm gonna have to vary stuff based on what people are doing and how they're feeling. I think that's an important thing too.
I said so. I have 2 clients, because when I lived in New York City, I think I was talking about a little bit before we were on air. I lived in New York City before I came back up here, and one of my clients, she's 73, and I still train her like online through Zoom.
Fire.
And we had to make some adjustments recently, and like she's somebody that wants to do what the plan is.
Yeah.
And like I get it. 100% get it. And like if we don't, sometimes she feels like it's like she failed.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, if I'm not adjusting a program on a daily basis,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing enough people.
Right.
And she was like, oh. And I was like, there's days I have people come. I have an athlete that comes in the gym. I got to do 2 sets with them. There's
Yep.
a adult that comes in the gym. I got to do half the workout with them.
Absolutely.
Like we're not even doing 2 sets.
Yeah.
We're going through A's and maybe B's.
Yeah.
We might just get through A's today.
There's times where I've had to kick. I had one client. She came in. She was a little bit late. She texted you like 5 minutes. She goes, hey, I'm gonna be 5 minutes late. I'm like, all right, cool. She gets there. She comes in. Like I see her zoom into the parking lot. She jumps out of her car. She's like halfway sprinting. She gets in. And like my goal is always, we always check in with our clients the first thing they come in. So I'm like, hey, yo, you good? And she started bawling. And then I quickly realized, well, clearly not. Like clearly she's not good. Give her space. She's kind of crying out. And she goes, my brother just committed suicide. I said, okay, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
She goes, well, I didn't want to cancel out on my session. And that's the cool part where like our clients and our community has so much love for not only like who we are, but what it is that we do. And they support that. They've become a part of that. So like some of them didn't want to fail it because they feel like it's failing us. And I'm looking at them like, go home.
Yeah.
Go be with your family. Go home.
Mm-hmm.
We will figure this out another time.
Yeah.
This is not where you need to be right now.
Yeah.
And it's clear as day. You're late. You're crying. I love you. Go take care of your family. Go handle your business.
Yeah, this job gives you perspective because you just meet all these people whose spouse dies, whose brother passed away, whose parent
Life
passed away,
be lifing.
whose kid gets sick. But yeah, just working this many years in the industry with this amount of people, you see a lot of lifing, a
Yeah.
lot of hard lifing.
So it's priorities, right? So
and-
it's like, hey, no, you don't need to be here. The gym ain't going nowhere.
No,
I
and you
promise you.
put into perspective, like, I'm not immune to life in either.
Right.
I definitely, and that's why I also love our community because there was definitely times, man, when especially during my wife's pregnancy, when it was like she texts me something feels unwell, and I said, hey, listen, I gotta go. The cool part about having also partners who are on the same level, who have the same principles, is say, hey, listen, do me a favor. Could you run this client's program for me? They're gonna hang out with you, and even their clients are okay with that, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, oh yeah, no, totally, we get it. And you know, for me to be able to be, of course, as an owner and as a coach who's been experienced, like there's boundaries, right? But like to be somewhat transparent and be like, hey, listen, I got a family emergency. I gotta go take care of that. And for them to be like open and receptive, like, of course, go, right? And that alone, I think, got us through moments like that. Kind of rapport and community got us through moments like COVID, where like we had to pivot and then go online, and like there's nothing like creating like a virtual program. Like I ain't do this before, doing these jumping jacks on. I don't know who. I'm looking at a screen, guys. This is ridiculous. I can't. Hold up. Let me look up. No, you make the adjustment and it's coming back and be like, okay, oh wait, that's time. Take a rest and be like, yo, this is. I don't feel like I'm delivering the quality that I can normally deliver, and I'm doing my best though. Like I'm reading, I'm seeing what other coaches are doing. How are other these coaches in the industry pivoting? All right, cool. And then to have a community that like sends in donations.
Yeah, that's what came out of COVID. Is
And
like
it was
we
like,
all.
oh wow, like y'all really. And then like moments where I've had like imposter syndrome was like, all right, cool. I must have did something right.
The COVID showed too why like training style gyms like ours are going to survive and do better because less square footage, less rent than a big commercial gym, and a community that will stick with you.
Yeah.
Right? Like we all probably had way less losses than a bigger commercial gym or
Correct.
chains did
Yeah.
during COVID because of community, because of how everything's set up.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Jay, where are we at? We're fucking ripping this one.
2.
Holy shit. Fuck yeah.
Oh shit.
We're going, baby.
Okay.
Oh, fuck. Yeah. I love it. I feel like it's been 5 minutes.
No, it's been a blast, man. I definitely appreciate you guys having me, man. It's tough finding like-minded individuals that's been around the game about the same time or have gone through the same kind of journey as a coach or as an athlete or as themselves or just the clientele that you deal with or all of it, man. It's really tough to find with the industry being what it is. It's really tough to find a group of people you could talk to that's not necessarily involved in your actual business structure or, you know what I mean? Just to kind of create that kind of community amongst professionals.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty cool.
It's like, yeah, our days are so demanding. We have families. You just live on these little islands.
Yeah.
And just we're all so similar, and it just feels so good to talk and share experiences.
To be
and-
like, hey, listen, okay, I'm not crazy. All right. Okay, there's more of us out here.
Thank God.
yeah.
Like I thought I was going a little bit, I think I'm the only one out here sometimes. And then
Yeah,
it's like,
or
okay,
like,
cool.
yeah, or
All right.
like, is this? Can I do life like this? Can I own a gym and raise a family and have more kids? And like, is this a thing? And it's like, okay, other people are doing it. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
yeah,
And that's what I appreciate about not only gym owners, but people who just take on life that way.
yeah,
Like, again, going back to like, the rolling with the punches. Like people who just, you show me somebody who's like jacked in their 50s and I'm like, all right, you've dealt with some stuff and like you've maintained your gym activity. You're all right by me.
yeah.
At least on that base level.
Right.
But, other things may come into play, but at least generally speaking, I can look and say, you know what? That individual clearly puts in work and understands what discipline is to a degree and
Yeah.
has some self-worth.
Self-worth.
Right? Because they're devoting some of their time to the gym.
Yeah.
And at least I can stand on that with
Yeah,
somebody.
and then another layer, I like to get to know people and say, oh, you've had some adversity,
Yeah.
and you've done it,
Yeah.
and you've turned out okay.
It turned out all right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's a big thing too. Yeah, Isaiah, man, this was fantastic.
This was fun.
We can rip another fucking hour, but yeah, we've said a lot. This was great.
Yep.
I think we've just been. I think Paul asked me like, how do you know Isaiah? I go, I think we've just been Facebook friends for a long time.
Yeah.
and I don't even know.
I can't remember if I saw someone that was on your podcast and that's what made me follow you first, or if it was looking. So the business side of me is I like to know the key competitors around.
Go,
and,
yeah, that we all do it.
and so like so I keep it. I look at other gyms and things like that and just see who owns it or who's around and somehow I think the name came up or the podcast came. I can't remember which one came up first. And then I was like, oh, these guys look pretty cool. And then I looked and I was like, I didn't realize this was close to me. And then there was a point where I was like, man, these guys invite me for a podcast. But then I was like, oh, they don't know me, duh. Right? But I'm like, oh, they're this is somebody who, because I've watched a few of them. Like, oh, these guys are pretty cool, man. I enjoy how they ask the questions. It seems like they're really in tune with the individual was talking about, and then just in general the background, right? So also, sports. I love sports, so it's like, oh, and then there's a gym that's kind of more sports specific, and I go, oh, that's dope. And then, when you had reached out, I was like, "Let's go,
Dude, I'm
let's
happy.
go," because I needed.
You got your Steph Curry moment?
I need to also get out my comfort zone with stuff like this, man. Because like so many times too, I use that as an excuse. Like I got so much going on.
Yeah.
I got, and it's so much easier to be like, I'm tired. But I was like, you know what? No, like let me go chat with these guys. Let me go talk. Let me go build some community, some relations, and things like that. And I've absolutely enjoyed my time here, man. It's been a blast kind of talking with you guys.
I'm so happy you did it. I've really, this has been awesome. And it's part of why I do it, because I'm such a work-centered person.
Yeah.
And for me to just like give time outside of work, this is like a cheat code for me to do it, where it's like I'm within work. It's a scheduled like work thing, but we're drinking, I'm hanging out, we getting to know each other.
This was delicious, by the way.
This is good.
Like, that's gonna definitely go
in the rotation.
It's definitely gonna go in the rotation.
It's good. Yeah, the Japanese whiskeys are smooth. But yeah, man, this has been great, and we'll do another, and we stay in touch.
About to say, I would love to come back, man. I definitely would love.
Yeah, we will, and yeah, just staying in touch, man. It's been great. And anything you want to plug before we jump off?
Shameless. Be shameless about it. Be shameless.
Just come check us out. I truly do think that we have a perspective that's a little bit different than your average gym. With a bunch of individuals that truly want to see the betterment of the individual, to kind of help build them up to make better habits, choices, routines, and yeah, just come check us out. We are located in Albany, right off of Washington Ave Extension. 9 Washington Square. We do one-on-one training, group training, nutrition guidance, physical therapy, group classes, you name it. We solve problems. That's what we do.
Perfect.
We solve problems, man.
Kinetictraining.fit. That's the website. Go check it
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
Check out Isaiah.
You can tell I don't do this a lot because I definitely forgot the actual plug.
That's all right.
Paul's here.
I also have a cheat code. I have the outline. I have a cheat code.
There it is.
And we will link everything. And Isaiah, this has been great. I'm happy we could connect.
Absolutely,
and,
man. Definitely got to
and
do it again.
100%, man. So everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll catch everybody next time.